Chapter 32. Gu had a mysterious relationship with each other. They could complement each other, or they could restrain each other. If Shunlian had no choice but to use Iron Skin Gu, and was suddenly attacked by an Ice-type Gu, the damage would be doubled, and the consequences would be unimaginable. However, ever since he obtained Grandmaster Gu, he had become more proficient in close combat. Overflow Rain Sword was also proficient in offense. The indomitable and courageous sword intent was focused on offense and not defense, thus the Iron Skin Gu was used less often. In the battle with Li Wanlu, he did not use Iron Skin Gu. Now that he thought about it, this saved him instead. The old man chuckled. The Gu I want to give you is called Jade Rock Gu. It is a high-quality stone-type Gu. Refine Jade Gu with Iron Skin Gu, and you can get Iron Jade Gu. Beautiful stone is jade. Jade is the essence of stone. It is fine and hard, and is moist and warm. It is not hard to see that Iron Jade Gu has the advantages of both Iron Skin Gu and Jade Rock Gu. Not only is its defense several times higher than Iron Skin Gu, it also has cold and heat resistance. If you refine Iron Jade Gu, Li Wanlu's Ice Crystal Gu will not be able to threaten you. Shunlian listened with a smile. Seeing his calm and composed appearance, Lin Xiaoping could not restrain his anger. He gritted his teeth. This guy became a Gu master because of him, and now he was doing even better than him. It was truly a huge blow to him. Regret surged in his heart. If he was not in urgent need of money, he would not have contacted Wang Fu Gui to sell the Gu, and Shen Lian would not have gotten this Iron Skin Gu. The old man chuckled as he talked about Jade Rock Gu. However, even with the old man's glib tongue, Shen Lian was unmoved. He said calmly, Jade Rock Gu is too ordinary, it cannot be bought for 7 days. The old man was silent for a while. His gaze flashed, and he said in a heavy tone, Young Master Shun, why are you being so overbearing? Leave some face for me so that we can meet again in the future. Shun Lian sneered, saying coldly, My enemy is so far away, yet you want me to let him go. Do you think I am stupid? The old man sighed. He said helplessly, All right, I will give you another Gu. It is called Golden Light Gu. It is an enhancement type Gu. It can double the strength of any Gu's special effect. It should be enough, right? Lin Xiaoping's expression changed. He shouted excitedly, Second uncle. Li Wanlu was also moved, in a way. The value of the Golden Light Gu, in some sense, it was even more than his Joyous Union Gu and Shen Lian's Grandmaster Gu. Special effect of special effect? Shun Lian blinked his eyes and his eyes were burning with passion. With the Golden Light Gu, Iron Skin Gu's defense, Milk Cow Gu's primeval essence refinement efficiency, and Grandmaster Gu's comprehension ability, they instantly doubled. This Gu was amazing. Good deal. The elder heaved a sigh of relief. He took out 2 Gu worms and handed them to Shun Lian reluctantly. Let's go. Shun Lian kept the Gu, rode on the horse and waved his arm. Everyone followed him and retreated. Along the way, Mao Dehai came over and asked in confusion, Young Master Lian clearly has the advantage, why did he compromise for 2 Gu? Isn't it the same to capture them and snatch them? Shun Lian sighed. If only things were so simple. That old man was very strong. Shun Lian was very sure of this. Grandmaster Gu's extreme strengthening effect continued to strengthen his body. His 5 senses were also strengthened to a transcendent level. His reaction speed, agility, adaptability and so on were beyond ordinary people. It even formed an indescribable super-intuition. Precisely because of this, Li Wanlu hid behind the door and attacked him with smoke. He could dodge it in time. When Lin Xiaoping acted arrogantly in front of him, he could sense who was stronger and who was weaker. He directly slapped his face. And this old man, his aura was so powerful that the pressure he gave him was very close to Sister Yu's. He was a true expert. However, Shen Lian also sensed a trace of rotten and deteriorating aura from the old man. It was very similar to that sickly Luda who It could be concluded that the old man's body had collapsed due to the goo refinement failure. He had no choice but to use all of his primeval essence to forcefully suppress his injuries. This made him unable to fight easily. As long as he was not forced into a corner, Shen Lian could extort as much as he wanted. They are protecting Li Wanlu because he has the white brows red eyes goo. They want him to help them find the goo. It seems that there is a special goo. They are sure of its existence but have not found it. Moreover, this goo can only exist for at most 7 days in this world. Shen Lian guessed that this special goo was most likely a healing-type goo. It could heal the old man's injuries. No matter what, I cannot let them obtain this goo, otherwise, Shen clan will be exterminated. Why did Li Wanlu join them and help them find the goo? From the first time Shen Lian saw Li Wanlu and Lin Xiuping standing together, he knew that this was a situation where one of them had to die. Second uncle, Shen Lian is too arrogant. Just now in the house, Lin Xiuping was indignant. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. His face was ashen and he was extremely unhappy in his heart. He had not finished speaking when the hunchbacked old man waved his hand and interrupted him. You are not his match. The old man's calm expression had already vanished. It was replaced by gloominess and ruthlessness. His killing intent was biting cold. You are bronze rank 6, Shen Lian is bronze rank 7. He also has Grandmaster Gu's battle strength. If you fight him head-on, you will die miserably. Rank 7? Lin Xiuping shuddered. He was incomparably shocked. How could this be? The last time I met him, he did not even know what a gu was. How could he? He could not understand, nor could he accept such an outcome. The old man was also very shocked. He thought for a while and said slowly, This world is all about fate. There is a huge difference between being fated and not. Gu will choose the most suitable gu master. Once they meet, it is like lightning striking the earth. There is no way to stop it. Shen Lian should be a genius in martial arts. This is why that Grandmaster Gu favored him. Their hearts are connected and their growth is rapid. Hearing this, Lin Xiuping was speechless. He was somewhat dejected. Li Wanlu, on the other hand, felt deep jealousy and hatred in his heart. After thinking for a while, Lin Xiuping said fiercely, Shen Lian is a hidden danger. We have to get rid of him. Second uncle, I have a plan. The old man pressed his hand. I know what you want to do. Your gu prick people small is a curse-type gu. It is very suitable for assassination. But to activate this gu, you need to obtain the target's physical information, hair, nails, blood and so on. You don't have any of these. How are you going to curse and kill Shen Lian? Lin Xiuping smiled coldly. This is simple. I will find Shen clan's servant and spend a lot of money to buy it. I will definitely be able to take his life within 3 days. The old man shook his head. Shen Lian dared to destroy the imperial court's decree in front of everyone. It can be seen that this person is very meticulous and daring. He will do anything to achieve his goals. He is a ruthless and ambitious person. He is the local tyrant of Snow Ridge City. He can do anything he wants and has many eyes and ears. We are all under his surveillance. I'm afraid you will be discovered before you even get close to Shen clan. Shen Lian looks gentle on the surface, but his heart is firm, decisive and ruthless. Once he senses that we are plotting against him, he will definitely not let us leave Snow Ridge City alive. Lin Xiuping was completely speechless. He felt like he had swallowed a fly. The old man suddenly laughed and patted Lin Xiuping's shoulder, saying, Don't be discouraged. Shen Lian is not to be trifled with, but he has just started on the path of a gu master. He is still very young. I have given him a huge gift. Maybe we can take his life today. Lin Xiuping suddenly raised his head. Li Wanlu's expression also changed. Second uncle, I predicted that he would be greedy. After giving him one gu, he would want a second one. Thus, I made some preparations and gave him the Jade Rock Gu and Golden Light Gu. The Jade Rock Gu is real, but the Golden Light Gu is fake. Fake? That is not Golden Light Gu, but Heart-Eating Gu. Heart-Eating Gu? Lin Xiaoping and Li Wanlu looked at each other. They could not help but be overjoyed. Just like medicine, there are good medicines to cure diseases, and also poisons to harm people. Just like worms, there are beneficial worms, and also pests. Goo were the same, they had all kinds of different forms. There were mystical goo that could make people strong, and also goo that could harm people's lives. Heart-eating goo was a goo that harmed people. This goo was a disguise type. It was good at disguising itself as other goo, luring goo masters to refine it, after which it would enter the goo master's body and devour their heart. The victim would die without a doubt. Haha, the older, the wiser. Who could have thought that the old man would send Xinlian to the Yellow Springs without making a sound? The battle between goo masters is unpredictable. Scheming is more important than strength. Overly relying on goo will instead put you at a disadvantage. You need to learn from this. The old man plotted, his eyes reflecting a sinister cold light. Also, don't forget that I am a silver rank goo master. As long as you help me find the blood infant goo and heal my injuries, I can exterminate Shin clan with a flip of my hand. Saying so, he looked at Li Wanlu with deep meaning. Killing Xinlian and exterminating Shin clan was Li Wanlu's request. The old man was also willing to do so, because Shin clan's wealth was coveted. The prerequisite was that Li Wanlu had to find the blood infant goo. Hearing the words blood infant goo, Li Wanlu's lips twitched. Blood infant goo was extremely strange. It was often born in the bodies of babies who died at birth, after which the blood of young boys and girls would be used to feed the blood infant goo. But this was far from enough. Blood infant goo's growth and evolution required a place filled with grievances, a place filled with blood and filth. This time, Family Lin was using Snow Ridge City as a basin to refine goo. It was a good opportunity for blood infant goo to advance. The hunchbacked old man was also a member of Family Lin. He participated in this and put the blood infant goo in, allowing it to break through its shackles. Blood infant goo was only the size of a mosquito. It was like a newborn baby. It had a nose and eyes. It looked very cute at first glance, like a little fairy. It had wings and could fly. But it ate flesh and blood as its food. Its actions were also like a mosquito. It would bite a person's flesh and eat until it was full. The victim would only think it was a mosquito bite. Its greatest use was to refine blood qi. After refining the blood infant goo, goo masters could directly drink human blood, refine blood qi and condense blood essence. It had healing effects, reviving the dead and regrowing bones. No matter how much damage one suffered, as long as one still had a breath of life, they could use blood essence to heal the body, and it would be even better than before. The disadvantage was that the blood infant goo was too venomous. People who refined it would become extremely vicious, bloodthirsty and cruel, half human half demon. Chapter 33. Xinlian led his men back to the residence. Steward Fan Li and maid Suelon welcomed him at the gate. Steward Fan. Yes, sir. Withdraw a sum of money from the account room and give it to Chen Yuanguang and his constables. The constables will receive 50 taels each and Chen Yuanguang will receive 300 taels each. In addition, withdraw another 3,000 taels for the magistrate. Steward Fan, you will deliver it personally. Also, for the servants who follow me, their salary will be tripled this month. Xinlian quickly made the arrangements. He had publicly destroyed the imperial decree presented by the hunchbacked old man. Many mouths had to be sealed. He had to buy people's hearts as soon as possible and prepare for a rainy day. This amount of money was just a drop in the ocean for the Shen family, but it was enough to tie many people firmly to the Shen family. Whether it was the imperial court or the Jianghu, the Shen family could do anything. Yes, sir. Fan Li bowed his head in acknowledgement and left. Xinlian turned to Suelon and said, "Go and invite Wang Fugue here." Suelon ran away and came back after a while. She reported, "Mr. Lian, what a coincidence. Mr. Wang just arrived at the door." Yes, he should be here soon. Xinlian pondered for a while. Wang Fugue was monitoring Lin Xiaoping. Wang Fugue must have caught wind of their coincidental encounter and conflict. Let him in. Shen Lian went to the living room. After a while, Wang Fugue walked in quickly and applauded as soon as he entered. Brother Lian, you are so awesome. Slapping Lin Xiuping's face, I feel good just listening to it. His round eyes shot out a look that said, you are so awesome. Lin Xiuping is arrogant and despotic. We have to teach him a lesson and let him know who is the boss in Snow Ridge City. Oh right, you have been monitoring him for many days. Did you find anything? Shen Lian laughed and changed the topic. Yes. Wang Fugue sat down and organized his thoughts. During the day, Lin Xiuping and the hunchbacked old man almost never left the house. Only the pretty girl came in and out. The pretty girl did not do anything special. She just went out to buy some food and occasionally gave some food to the homeless orphans. After a while, the orphans liked her very much. Every time she appeared, they would circle around her. At night, Lin Xiuping and the hunchbacked old man would come out to move around. They didn't do anything but wander around with lanterns, as if they were looking for something. The only strange thing was that Lin Xiuping and the hunchbacked old man would wear dark red clothes every time they came out, and there was a faint smell of blood. However, my spies were afraid of alerting the enemy, so they didn't get too close. I can't be sure if the smell is blood. After hearing this, Shen Lian fell into deep thought. That pretty girl, Shen Lian closed his eyes and tried to recall. She seemed to be the old man's maid. She was always submissive and didn't leave a deep impression on Shen Lian. The hunchbacked old man is shrewd with age. Lin Xiuping is also very vigilant. To find out what goo they are looking for, that pretty girl might be a breakthrough. Thinking of this, Shen Lian's lips curled up as he said to Wang Fugue, Fatty, find 2 ruffians to test this pretty girl and see if she is a goo master. If she isn't, kidnap her. Kidnap? This is fun. Wang Fugue chuckled, his hands itching. I will do it now, wait for my news. Shen Lian turned around and returned to the room. Let me take a look at these 2 goo. Shen Lian carefully opened the silk handkerchief. He was wary of the hunchbacked old man, so from start to finish, he didn't touch these 2 goo. The first goo was like a sandalwood pearl, sparkling and translucent, beautiful and flawless. It was like the radiance of the sun and the moon. This is the jade goo. Shen Lian lightly touched it. It was warm and moist, and he could feel the aura of life. The second goo was like a golden beetle made of gold. Tyrant gold, shining with golden light and dazzling to the eyes. Golden light goo. Shen Lian's gaze faintly burned with passion. He had great expectations for this special effect type goo. After inspecting it carefully and finding no abnormalities, he began to feed it with his blood. Drip, drip, drip. The blood flowed from his fingertips and dripped onto the handkerchief. The golden light goo quickly reacted and drank his blood. The jade goo had no facial features, and the blood that fell on its body slowly seeped into its body, forming a spider web of blood lines. A moment later, these blood lines slowly faded away, but the jade goo was still translucent like light. Suddenly, Shen Lian's cranial nerves were hit by a wave of friendly thoughts. This, Shen Lian was stunned, his eyes widening as he stared at the golden light goo. His eyes shining, the refinement was a success. Other than the she-life goo, this was the first time he had refined a goo so easily and smoothly. He couldn't believe it. Don't tell me I am fated with this goo? Shen Lian slowly closed his eyes, recalling the scenes when the hunchbacked old man gave him the golden light goo. At a certain moment, the scene froze on the hunchbacked old man's face. That was an expression of reluctance, as if he was unwilling to give the golden light goo to Shen Lian. His lips had a strange arc, as if he was mocking me. The wrinkles on his brows were smoothing out, as if he was immensely pleased with himself. Shen Lian's heart tightened, and he shuddered, opening his eyes and gasping for breath. She-life goo, come out and take a look at this golden light goo. Following Shen Lian's call, the life twister goo emerged from his palm and jumped onto the handkerchief. It took graceful steps and circled around the 2 goo. Suddenly, The she-life goo walked towards the golden light goo. The golden tortoise-like tycoon gold goo trembled like a mouse seeing a cat, flapping its wings and flying away. The she-life goo rose from the ground, leaping above the golden light goo, and with a kick, the golden light goo fell onto the handkerchief and rolled around. The she-life goo landed in front of the golden light goo, pinching the tip of the golden light goo's nose, lifting it up and smashing it down, lifting it up again and smashing it down again. This cycle continued, so violent. Shen Lian was stunned. He had never seen such a brutal side of the she-life goo. Is this its ex-boyfriend? Not long later, the golden light goo's whole body was covered in light, and its body swelled up, becoming fat. The tycoon gold was gone, its skin was grayish-white, and its appearance had changed greatly, resembling a lizard. At the same time, the information on the interface was updated. Heart-eating goo, disguise and transformation type, habit, eating human hearts. Heart-eating goo? Heart-eating? Shen Lian's breathing stagnated. His expression changed again and again, intense anger and killing intent surging on his face. How was this golden light goo? It was clearly a heart-eating goo, the weapon that the hunchbacked old man used to murder him. Hee, Shen Lian sneered again and again. Terrifying, truly terrifying. The world of goo masters was indeed filled with unfathomable dangers. A moment of carelessness and one's life would be in danger, dying without even knowing how. Right at this time, another thought rushed over. It was the jade stone goo. It turned out that after the jade stone goo saw the cruel scene of the she-life goo torturing the heart-eating goo, it was so scared that it almost peed its pants, and actually took the initiative to surrender. This is really, Shen Lian was speechless. The jade stone goo entered his body as if it was fleeing for its life, and landed near the iron skin goo's aperture, building a nest and opening the aperture. The moment the aperture was born, a strand of stone attribute primeval energy was born. Shen Lian felt his feet were steady and did not move, like a rock, as if even a hurricane could not blow him away. At this time, Shen Lian's gaze suddenly focused, and a new change appeared on the interface. Jade Stone Goo, White Rank, Special Effect, Strengthen Stability. Consume 10 points of bewilderment to evolve the Jade Stone Goo by 1 level. Do you want to evolve? Shen Lian stared at the heart-eating goo that was still being tormented by the she-life goo, and then took a deep breath, calming his heart down. Evolve the Jade Stone Goo. Once he said that, the interface flashed with light. Almost at the next moment, the Jade Stone Goo trembled excitedly. Crack, 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 the surface of the sandalwood bead suddenly cracked, forming countless patterns, and a moment later, a layer of rock fragments fell down. Right now, the Jade Stone Goo was full of luster, and its whole body was translucent, like a luminous pearl, emitting a gentle glow. Evolution successful. On the interface, the information was also updated. Jade Stone Goo, Bronze Rank 1, Special Effect, Strengthen Stability, Strengthen Affinity Bond. This is a chemical term. The covalent bond formed between two atoms is very important in maintaining the natural conformation and stability of many substances at the molecular level. Simply speaking, affinity bonds play an extremely important role in maintaining the formation of a molecule's three-dimensional structure. This also means that the decomposition and recombination of molecules starts from the opening of affinity bond. From this, it could be seen that the Jade Stone Goo was an extremely outstanding fusion goo, and could easily fuse with other goo. Thinking of this, a line of information appeared at the bottom of the interface, gradually becoming clearer. Frowny face, consume 250 points of bewilderment to evolve the Jade Stone Goo and Iron Skin Goo into Iron Jade Goo. Do you want to fuse? That works too. Shen Lian was overjoyed. He was still worried about his lack of knowledge on fusion, and where to go to gather information, but to think that bewilderment points could be used for fusion. Right, bewilderment points are the catalyst for evolution. It can allow pure goo to evolve, and can also allow multiple goo to undergo mutation, fusion, and evolve. Shen Lian almost shouted out loud. Chapter 34. A shocking scene appeared in Shenlian's mind. In the boundless universe, two planets collided with each other. Destruction and rebirth occurred at the same time, either fusing into an even bigger planet, or shattering into countless meteors that floated in the vast universe. Grand and magnificent. Shenlian knew that those two planets were actually two apertures. Apertures were strange spaces created by goo. The collision of two apertures was like Mars colliding with Earth, causing a chaotic spatial storm. In the collapsing space, amidst the intense storm, iron skin goo and jade goo were like two bulls in a bullring. Their horns clashed and created sparks from the friction, turning into fierce flames that enveloped the two goo. Heaven and earth furnace. If they did not explode during evolution, they would die during evolution. A miraculous change began. Jade goo melted into fine lava in the surging flames, covering the iron skin goo's surface and slowly seeping in. On the other side, the lizard-like heart-eating goo was lying on the ground like a dead dog, its long tongue hanging out. Life-twisting goo pulled that tongue and walked around the heart-eating goo like walking a dog. Its hands were constantly gesturing something, as if it was teaching the heart-eating goo a lesson. "Little guy, you have guts, daring to come to my territory and behave atrociously. What, your boss sent you? Damn, is your boss that awesome? Don't be arrogant with me, my eldest brother Qin Shi Huang, my second brother Benlun, first bombed, then poisoned, then burned books and buried scholars. Are you convinced? Look at you, you are poor financially, your personality is fickle, you like all kinds of things, your life creed is a mess, you are probably a cuckold. As soon as you go out, the birds will fly away and the people will disappear. If you fall into the water, everyone will come and pee. If you go and register, your nationality will be changed to pig. Lastly, let me tell you a secret. I have 300 photos of your girlfriend on my computer." The heart-eating goo cried. "Life-twisting goo. Tell me honestly, are you having an affair with the husky next door?" The heart-eating goo felt like it had nothing left to live for. "Just kill me." Life-slipping goo. "Sigh, you have to be strong. Isn't it just being cuckolded by 30 to 50 people? It's not a big deal. A true warrior dares to face a bleak life, dares to face dripping blood. The saint once said, when the heavens bestow a great responsibility upon a man, he must first make himself a cuckold, and burst his chrysanthemum." Jade goo disappeared, while iron skin goo's appearance changed greatly. It was originally an iron-skinned beetle, but now there was a layer of jade on its skin, and it was emitting a magical jade radiance. It was like a jade artifact that was exquisitely crafted, and it was extremely beautiful. The fusion was a success. The moment the iron jade goo was born, a brand new aperture opened up. The iron jade goo hid inside and breathed in and out. The information on the interface was also updated. Iron jade goo, bronze ranked level 9, special effect. Iron jade wall, cold and heat resistance, refined skin, bronze ranked level 9? Shenlian was shocked. After the fusion of the two bronze ranked level 1 venomous insects, what happened was a leap in evolution. 1 plus 1 was greater than 2, and it immediately jumped to bronze ranked level 9. How awesome! The fusion method is actually so awesome. Shenlian was speechless. Thinking about it, he felt that this was most likely a special case. Not all fusion goo would undergo a leap in evolution. Some would go through a smooth transition, and some would even degrade. Using mathematical analysis, it should be a normal distribution, depending on the situation. Thinking of this, the iron jade goo's breathing became faster and faster. The rolling primeval energy was refined, extracted and absorbed into the aperture, forming a nebula whirlpool that resembled a black hole. The iron jade primeval energy in the aperture increased rapidly, and in an instant, an intense feeling of hunger attacked. "Haha, I feel it!" Shenlian's eyes shone brightly, and he was ecstatic. He immediately opened a jar of medicinal wine and gulped it down, replenishing the iron jade goo's primeval energy. Gradually, the primeval energy in the air became denser, and in less than half an hour, a drop of liquid primeval energy was condensed, and with a splashing sound, it landed at the bottom of the aperture. Soon after, drops of green copper primeval essence fell like rain, and the liquid primeval energy at the bottom continued to rise. Amazing! Even without the help of the milk cow goo, the iron jade goo can quickly refine primeval energy and condense primeval essence. Seeing this, Shenlian felt the difference of the iron jade goo. In comparison, the iron skin goo and jade goo were on a completely different level. This was a new goo with huge potential. Milk cow goo, come and help. Time was tight, and Li Wanlu should have already started to help Lin Xiuping and the hunchbacked old man find healing goo. Shenlian had a huge sense of urgency. He had to raise his strength as soon as possible. The milk cow goo that was cohabiting with the Grandmaster goo was already restless, and after receiving Shenlian's instructions, it immediately bid farewell to the Grandmaster goo. Look, I don't want to leave you, but Shenlian is too bad. He wants me to go, I have no choice. The Grandmaster goo was furious. Are you interested in the iron jade goo? The milk cow goo flatly denied. No, the iron jade goo is only embedded with a layer of jade, it looks taller and feels nicer to touch, I am not interested. Let's not talk anymore, I will pay my respects. Today you look down on me, but tomorrow I will make you unworthy. The Grandmaster goo was furious and went into closed cultivation, vowing to evolve to a higher level. The milk cow goo's heart soared, and took the initiative to throw itself into his arms. Although the iron jade goo was domineering, it was still a newborn. How could it resist the teasing of the experienced milk cow goo, and was instantly tamed. Thus, the two goos started their shameless cohabitation life. The pitiful single iron skin goo was reborn from the ashes, and after devouring the jade goo, it evolved into the iron jade goo, and finally welcomed its own spring. An afternoon passed quickly. In the iron jade goo's aperture, green copper primeval essence was surging, occupying 70% of the space. 70% again? The iron jade goo was bronze rank 9, while the Grandmaster goo was bronze rank 8. In the end, the green copper primeval essence in the two apertures increased to 70% before stopping. This meant that Shenlian was still a bronze rank 7 goo master. Don't tell me the aperture can only hold 70% of the green copper primeval essence? The same situation occurred twice, and Shenlian realized that he had encountered a common problem. Let's not bother about it for now, let me try the iron jade goo's special effect first. The amount of information was too little, and he could not deduce the reason in a short while, so Shenlian directly threw away this problem. His mind flickered, and a thread of primeval essence was mobilized from the iron jade goo's aperture, quickly spreading to the surface of his body. Immediately, Shenlian's skin surged with a lustrous radiance, and his skin became thicker by a layer. The color was like iron yet not iron, like jade yet not jade, and it felt smooth and smooth to the touch. It was like a thick layer of light was smeared on the surface of his body, overflowing with light and vibrant colors, giving off an indescribable sense of beauty. His whole person looked like an iron jade sculpture, shocking the heart. Shenlian stood in front of the mirror and looked at it for a while. Then, he immediately found a steel knife and slashed at his arm. With a crack, the huge force caused the blade to roll up and a gap appeared on the blade. Shenlian looked at the place where he was slashed, and there was not even a trace left behind. This was a defensive strength that the iron skin goo could not achieve. Invulnerable! Chapter 35. The afterglow of the setting sun poured in from the far west, gilding the buildings of different heights in Snow Ridge City with a charming layer of sunset glow. On the street of the market in the south of the city, the peddlers' cries were endless. Pedestrians came and went on the street. "Thief, you stole my steamed buns again!" Brother Daigneau, who was selling steamed buns, suddenly roared and rushed out of the shop. He saw a few dirty children running quickly in front of him, blending into the crowd in the blink of an eye. Brother Degnaud stomped his feet with a helpless expression. At this time, a beautiful young lady walked over slowly. She looked around with a gentle smile, and stopped in front of the steamed bun shop. Brother Degnaud's spirit was lifted. He took a deep breath and quickly put away his big belly. He raised his head and smiled. Miss Moer, you're here. Moer nodded. I want to buy 8 steamed buns. Pack them into a pack. Also, give me 30 steamed buns. Pack them into a pack. 8. Do you have a guest at home? Degnaud knew that this lady named Moer only bought 6 steamed buns for her family every time she came. The remaining pack was used to distribute to the homeless orphans. Moer heard this and thought of someone. A deep disgust flashed across her face. She sneered. It's for the dogs. Degnaud laughed and packed 2 big packs. He took the money and watched Moer leave with admiration in his eyes. If only I could marry her as my wife. This was Degnaud's thought, and also the thought of many people. They silently watched Moer as she walked into a garbage alley. Sister Moer is here. Sister Moer is here. Hello, Sister Moer. In an instant, more than a dozen dirty beggars in rags surrounded her while shouting happily. Come, I'm giving out steamed buns. 1 for each person. Don't fight. The garbage alley quickly quieted down. Not far from the alley, 3 ruffians were rubbing their palms together. Look, it's this beautiful girl. She's not bad. She's fair and tender, and her legs are long. Can she take off her pants to play? The buyer didn't say. As long as we kidnap her. The 3 of them whispered to each other. After a while, Moer walked out of the garbage alley and went back the way he came. The 3 ruffians mixed in with the crowd and followed him. When they got out of the market, there were fewer people on the street. The 3 ruffians swarmed up to them. 2 of the ruffians blocked Moer's path, and another came from behind, cutting off her escape route. Beauty, where are you going? Come and play with me. One of the ruffians had been thirsty for a long time and couldn't wait to grab her chest. Moer's face turned cold. He raised his palm and slapped the ruffian's chin. The ruffian's head was thrown back. He took 4 or 5 steps back and fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, the other 2 ruffians were shocked. They approached her one after the other. One grabbed her hair from the back, and the other hugged her waist. Moer was a little flustered. In her panic, she suddenly exhaled sharply. The strange thing was that the breath was actually gray and emitted a gray light. In the light, 2 little insects suddenly flew out. They flapped their wings and burrowed into the ears of the 2 ruffians. The 2 ruffians were so focused on rushing toward Moer that they didn't notice that there were little insects burrowing into their ears. In the next moment, the 2 ruffians slowed down. Their eyelids were fighting, and they couldn't help but yawn. Their faces were tired and sleepy. Their expressions gradually became blank, as if they had completely forgotten what they were doing. Moer ran away. The other ruffian had just gotten up from the ground. When he saw his 2 companions standing in place and stretching, he couldn't help but stomp his feet anxiously and roar, "What are you doing? Chase after her." However, the 2 ruffians were lying on the ground. They seemed to be unable to withstand the waves of sleepiness and fell asleep directly. OF*CK. The other ruffian was dumbfounded. "These 2 pig teammates, you guys go to sleep. I'm going to fly alone." He picked up a wooden stick and chased after her. When he was 3 or 4 meters away, he suddenly threw the wooden stick out. With a muffled bang, it hit the back of Moer's head. She felt dizzy. Ugh. Moer groaned and fell to the ground. She touched the back of her head. It was full of blood. The ruffian pounced over and pinned Moer to the ground, locking her hands. "Let go of me. Help." Sob, sob, sob. Moer struggled and shouted, but the ruffian covered her mouth. Then she was dragged into the side alley. There was no one around. The ruffian looked at Moer's snow-white chest exposed by her loose collar and licked his lips. His eyes were full of crazy passion. Rip. The ruffian had long forgotten the buyer's instructions. He directly tore off Mo's pants. Instantly, two white and delicate long legs were exposed. The pink underwear was so charming. Ah! The ruffian became even more crazy and pressed his body over. Mo's eyes were filled with tears of despair. She struggled desperately but to no avail. She almost had the thought of biting her tongue to commit suicide. At this moment, the ruffian suddenly flew backward. He was grabbed by the back of his collar and thrown out. His back hit the wall of the alleyway, and he fell to the ground in a daze. Swoosh! The person unsheathed his sword and slit the ruffian's neck. A head rolled on the ground. Blood splattered all over the ground. Mo was shocked and scared. She could not breathe. Her eyes turned black and she lost consciousness. Before she fainted, she vaguely saw the person's face. He looked familiar, as if she had seen him somewhere before. After some time, Mo suddenly woke up. She was still in shock. She was lying on a big bed, covered with a duck feather quilt. It was very light but unusually warm. "You're awake," a gentle voice sounded. Mo was slightly shocked. She turned around and finally recognized the person who saved her. It was Shunlian. "It's you." Mo held her breath nervously. Shunlian sighed and said, "Snow Ridge City has just gone through a riot. The order is still very chaotic. You're a girl, it's better not to go out alone." As he spoke, Suelon brought a bowl of pungent medicine and said, "Young Master Lien, the medicine is ready." Shunlian passed the bowl to her and said, "The injury on your head is not serious, but there's a blood clot and slight swelling. Drink this white medicine tea and the blood clot will be dissolved. You'll recover completely. Alright, where do you live? Who are your parents? Tell me, I'll send someone to inform them to pick you up." "You don't know me?" Mo blinked. Shunlian frowned slightly and asked in surprise, "Have we met before?" Mo quickly lowered her head. She thought Shunlian was only focused on dealing with Lin Xiuping, Lin Yuanshou, and Li Wanlu. He probably did not notice her. "I just thought you looked familiar. You must be a big shot. I might have seen you somewhere before." Mo had an idea. Then, he took the bowl of medicine and drank it to hide his panic. Shunlian smiled and said, "I'm Shunlian, the eldest young master of the Shin family. I'm considered a big shot in Snow Ridge City. You might have seen me before." After Mo finished drinking, he kept the bowl and said slowly, "I saw 3 ruffians trying to harm you. 2 of them suddenly fainted, as if they were hit by some strange power. May I ask, are you a Gu master?" Mo's heart thumped and she panicked. Shunlian smiled and waved his hand, saying, "To be honest, I'm also a Gu master. However, I've just started and there are many things I don't know. I only hope to find someone who shares the same path to communicate with. I have no ill intentions. If you don't want to, you can leave now. I won't stop you." Mo thought about it and couldn't decide. Seeing this, Shunlian sighed in disappointment and said, "Mrs. Body is fine now. You can leave any time you want." She got up and was about to leave. Mo suddenly blurted out, "Wait." Shunlian's body froze and he slowly sat down. "My name is Mo. I'm indeed a Gu master. However, I'm only a white level Gu master at the lowest level. I only have one Gu, called the Drowsy Gu. This Gu's condensed primeval energy can transform into drowsy worms. When they fly into a person's ear, they will immediately fall asleep and won't wake up for a few hours. I'm only a white level Gu master and my primeval energy is limited. I can only transform into 2 drowsy worms. This is also the reason why those 2 ruffians fainted." Shunlian clicked his tongue and exclaimed, "Drowsy Gu, it's really magical." Mo couldn't help but feel proud and smiled. Don't look at how the Drowsy Gu is only a white level Gu and the difficulty of evolving is extremely high. However, the drowsy worm it transforms into is effective on anyone. Even those silver-level Gu masters who are hit by my drowsy worm will fall asleep for a while before waking up. Of course, there was one point she didn't mention. The drowsy worm had to fly into a person's ear to be effective. How could a silver-level Gu master's ear be so easily invaded? The drowsy worm would be smacked to death before it even got close. Xinlian couldn't help but praise. Then, he opened his handkerchief and took out a Gu. It was the heart-eating Gu. This Gu was tortured by the life-playing Gu until it hovered between life and death. Now, it was completely docile and obedient, allowing Xinlian to control it. Now, it transformed back into the golden light Gu. This Gu was gifted by a Gu master. It is said to be the golden light Gu, but I don't trust that person and didn't dare to act rashly. Can Miss Mo help me identify it? Once she saw the golden light Gu, Mo's breathing stagnated and her face turned slightly pale. This should be the golden light Gu. Mo said hesitantly. Great. I was worried that person had bad intentions, but with Miss Mo's guidance, I can rest assured. Xinlian, however, had a look of deep trust. This Gu is restless. It seems to be hungry and wants me to feed it with my blood. Saying so, Xinlian took out a silver needle and pricked his finger, dripping his blood towards the golden light Gu. Mo was struggling in her heart. She was very conflicted. Xinlian was her master's enemy, but he was her savior. Without Xinlian's chivalrous help, she would have been defiled by that ruffian. Thinking of this, the blood was dripping towards the golden light Gu. Mo didn't care about anything else and waved her hand to knock away the golden light Gu. Young master, be careful. This is not the golden light Gu, it is the heart-eating Gu, a harmful Gu that eats people's hearts. Ah! Xinlian was surprised and asked curiously, Miss Mo, then why did you? Mo lowered her head. She knew she couldn't hide it anymore. After a while, she raised her head and said, Actually, my master is the person who gifted this Gu to you, Lin Yuanshou. Xinlian raised his eyebrows. Chapter 36. Why did Lin Yuanshou want to harm me? Immediately, Xinlian pretended to be shocked, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. That Li Wanlu raped and plundered, and he did not give up on harming me. In order to protect myself, and to rid the world of violence, I wanted to arrest him and bring justice to the people. However, I did not expect Lin Xiuping to protect a criminal like Li Wanlu. I had no choice but to clash with him. From the beginning to the end, I did not use any heavy hand. Lin Yuanshou took the initiative to give me the Gu, and I could not resist the temptation. Furthermore, I have no enmity with them, and did not want things to get out of hand, so I accepted the Gu. However, I did not expect. Xinlian glanced at the heart-eating Gu that was pretending to be dead on the ground, and sighed. Hearing Li Wanlu mentioned, Mo tilted her head, and a deep hatred flashed in her eyes. She said softly, Master needs Li Wanlu to help him find the blood infant Gu. At this point, Mo suddenly realized that this was a secret that should not be revealed, and hurriedly shut her mouth. Xinlian asked curiously, Blood infant Gu, what Gu is that? Mo's gaze evaded. She suddenly thought that once Lin Yuanshou found the blood infant Gu and healed his injuries, the entire Shen family would be slaughtered by him. This was not the first time that this person was vicious and would do what he said. Also, Li Wanlu was a lecherous demon, and he was tempted the moment he saw her. Lin Yuanshou promised Li Wanlu that as long as he found the blood infant Gu, he would give her to him. Thinking of this disgusting deal, as well as Li Wanlu's ugly face, and the fact that she could not escape from his hands, Mo shuddered violently and was terrified. She thought to herself, once I fall into Li Wanlu's hands, he will definitely torture me to death. Mo could not help but glance at Xinlian and thought, this young master has a pure heart and is a gentleman. He saved my life before. I can't just watch his whole family get killed. If it's possible, he might be able to save me again. These thoughts flashed across Mo's mind, and a ray of hope appeared in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, Mo finally made up his mind. He took a gamble and introduced the blood infant Gu, interspersing with the secret of how the demons massacred the city for 3 days. Lin Yuanshou and Lin Xiuping are both members of the Lin family. Aristocratic families attached great importance to bloodlines. From the moment a clansman was born, the family would test whether their bloodline was thick or thin. Lin Yuanshou and Lin Xiuping both had thin bloodlines, so thin that they were like ordinary people without bloodlines. People like them were called outsiders. On the other hand, the descendants of the aristocratic families with strong bloodlines were the inner clan members. The inner clan members were the core of the aristocratic families, and were high and mighty. Outsiders could not do the same, they did not have the qualifications to inherit the bloodline Gu. To the aristocratic families, they were almost dispensable existences. It could even be said that if an outsider could not advance to the silver rank, they would not be valued at all. They would not even have the same status as the retainers with different surnames. Lin Yuanshou curried favor for his whole life before finally advancing to a silver rank Gu master and obtaining some authority in the clan. But he was not satisfied. He still wanted to become an inner clan member and obtain the bloodline Gu. However, in a Gu refinement, he failed at the last minute. Lin Yuanshou's only silver rank Gu almost died, and he was heavily injured because of it, almost destroying his foundation to become a Gu master. In order to heal his injuries, he did everything he could, and after failing again and again, he almost went crazy. In the end, he actually wanted to refine that extremely vicious blood infant Gu. He spent his entire fortune to buy a white-grade blood infant Gu, and in order to evolve it, he went to the point of madness. He heard that an inner clan member wanted to refine a Gu, so he instigated that inner clan member to create a basin. After obtaining the inner clan member's support, he sent Lin Xiuping to select a small city to prepare. In the end, Snow Ridge City's Zhu family was attacked by demons while they were escorting the goods. After Lin Xiuping heard about it, he took the chance to intervene, and as he progressed step by step, the demons massacred the city for 3 days. Shen Lian's heart pounded intensely as he listened. The truth, this was the entire truth. Shen Lian's gaze flashed, and he suddenly thought of something, asking, "You said that the white rank blood infant Gu needs to feed on the blood of young boys and girls. I remember that 3 days before the demons massacred the city, there were many cases of children going missing. Was it done by Lin Yuanshou?" "Yes." Mo nodded, showing an unbearable expression. He sent Lin Xiuping to steal those children. Lin Xiuping has 2 very important Gu. One is the Little Man Gu, a curse-type Gu. As long as he obtains a part of the target's body, like hair, blood, etc., he can use the curse to harm them, killing them from 1,000 li away without leaving a trace. The second is the Puppet Gu, a puppet control-type Gu. It also needs to obtain a part of the target's body, and he can control them to do whatever he wants. Relying on the Puppet Gu, Lin Xiuping stole many children without anyone noticing. Hearing this, Shen Lian's gaze turned sharp, and he said coldly, "Chasing Wind Divine Investigator and several constables were investigating the case of the missing children. Shen Lian clenched his fists, his heart beating rapidly. Mo's expression changed. Chasing Wind Divine Investigator? Is he a very strong old man? Shen Lian's heart sank. Mo sighed sadly. That old man is really amazing. He is not a Gu master, but he managed to track down Lin Xiuping using some clues. Lin Xiuping was worried that they would spoil the plan, so he killed them all. I'm sorry. Shen Lian had a premonition that Bai Li Fei was doomed, but he had never thought that the one who murdered Bai Li Fei would be Lin Xiuping. The anger and hatred in his heart spread wildly. Shen Lian slowly let out a breath of turbid air, and asked, Li Wanlo's white brows, red eyes, Gu can find other Gu, but can it distinguish the true form of the Gu? For example, when Li Wanlu sees this golden light Gu, will he recognize it as a heart-eating Gu? Mo's breathing stagnated. She was not an idiot, She immediately thought of what Shen Lian wanted to do, and her expression turned solemn as she said seriously, "No, white brows, red eyes, Gu does not have the ability to distinguish the true from the false." "Then what about Lin Yuanshou?" Mo Er's heart tightened, her emotions were intense as she said word by word. "He also cannot distinguish the true form. He used a Gu to trade for the heart-eating Gu, to murder one of his enemies. After he used the heart-eating Gu to kill that person, he had always wanted to sell it, but he could not find a suitable buyer." That's great. I have another important question." Shen Lian's gaze flickered, his expression extremely serious. "Lin Yuanshou and Lin Xiuping are staying in Snow Ridge City. Does anyone know what they are doing?" As expected, Mo Er shook her head. "Lin Yuanshou will not let anyone know his true intentions. No one in family Lin knows that he is using the basin to evolve the blood infant Gu. Otherwise, even if he obtains the blood infant Gu, he would not be able to keep it, and it would be snatched away by other family Lin members. They have been moving in secret from start to finish, being extremely careful, afraid of being discovered. Actually, young master, when you and Lin Xiuping clashed, Lin Yuanshou was very afraid. He was afraid that the matter would blow up and others would discover that he was still in Snow Ridge City, thus he reluctantly gave you the Jade Gu to send you away." Final question: if Lin Yuanshou and Lin Xiuping suddenly disappeared, what would you do? Mo Er shuddered, she thought for a while and said solemnly, "I am one of the servants that Lin Yuanshou bought 3 years ago. The reason why he kept me by his side is because Lin Yuanshou has severe insomnia, and needs my drowsiness Gu to help him sleep." Chapter 37. Shen Lian pondered for a while and stood up. "Miss Mo please stay in the Shen residence tonight and have a good rest." Before the matter was settled, he could not let this woman leave. "Master," Lin Yuanshou promised Li Wanlu that as long as he finds the blood infant Gu and heals his injuries, he will slaughter the entire Shen family. When Shen Lian walked out of the door, Mo suddenly bit her lips, straightened her body, and shouted. She knew that this sentence would force Shen Lian to take action, and there would be no room for discussion. And this, although there was suspicion of using someone else to do the dirty work, it was also the only hope for her to survive. Shen Lian stopped in his tracks and did not turn back. His gaze was deep and dark. He came out of the room. "Cui Lan." Shen Lian tilted his head and instructed softly, "Arrange 2 servants to guard the door and arrange 2 archers to ambush nearby. If Mo tries to escape, shoot her on the spot. Also, call Fanli over." Cui Lan understood tacitly and immediately went to arrange. Shen Lian stood in the small courtyard. The night was dark and the cold wind was blowing, causing a layer of dust on the ground to swirl. After a while, Fanli walked in front and Cui Lan behind him quickly. He lowered his head and cupped his hands. "Eldest master, what instructions do you have for this old servant?" Shen Lian explained the stab man and the puppet Gu. "What? As long as he gets a part of the target's body, he can curse, kill, and control it." This was simply unheard of and unimaginable. Fan Li's expression changed and was extremely shocked. He took in a deep breath. Cui Lan was worried. The hair and nails that were cleaned from Master Lian's room were all thrown away. Could it have been taken by Lin Xiu? Probably not. Otherwise, Lin Xiu would have already taken action against Eldest Master or used this as a threat. The entire Shen residence would have had no choice but to succumb to his tyrannical power. Fan Li was scared at the thought of it, but after thinking for a while, he shook his head energetically. Shen Lian agreed and said sternly, "Quickly go and ask my father to set up new family rules." Also, he had to train his personal attendants as soon as possible. "In the future, we have to collect and destroy all the hair we shed, the blood from our injuries, the nails we cut off, the handkerchiefs we used to wipe our saliva and snot, and even the dandruff." Cui Lan, assist steward Fan. "Yes." Fan Li and Cui Lan hurriedly responded and turned to leave, discussing the details as they walked. Shen Lian sighed. In order to deal with the monster, the mandrill, the Shen family has imitated the village that Xiezhen mentioned and established a password system. Anyone who enters or leaves the mansion must be checked, but this is far from enough. There are too many loopholes and hidden dangers everywhere. Not long after, a servant came to report, eldest young master, Li Wanlu, Lin Xiuping, and that stooped old man just walked out of that house. Xin Lian nodded and asked, "Have you arranged the manpower?" "Everyone in position," the servant replied confidently. Xun Lian immediately picked up his wind-chasing sword and said with a murderous aura, "Let's go." The moonlight was cold and the night was dark. The cold wind passed through the streets and alleys of Snow Ridge City, emitting a ghost-like wailing sound. 3 people walked slowly on the street. In the eyes of ordinary people, Gu are also ordinary. But under the observation of my white brows, red eyes, Gu are like the stars in the sky, twinkling and can be seen from far away. Li Wanlu spoke frankly with assurance, beaming with joy as he walked towards the door of a house. Once he arrived, he knocked on the door with all his might. "Who is it, so late?" The door opened a crack, and a man looked out from inside, rubbing his eyes and yawning. "Stop talking nonsense, quickly open the door." Li Wanlu roared impatiently. With a push of his hand, the door opened inwards, causing the person behind the door to stagger. You guys!" The man behind the door was shocked and furious, watching the 3 figures barge into his house. He suddenly rushed to the wall, grabbed a shoulder pole and rushed over. Swoosh! Li Wanlu threw out an icicle, hitting the man's heart. The man who was still rushing forward with the shoulder pole stopped abruptly, and his body fell to the ground. Blood spread under his body, and he stopped moving after a while. "Wanlu, try not to kill people if you can. Before we find the blood infant Gu, we need to keep a low profile." The stooped Lin Yuanshou glanced at the dead man and said indifferently, Yes. Li Wanlu smiled flatteringly and changed the topic, pointing towards the well. "There is a Gu there, it might be the blood infant Gu." Lin Yuanshou's spirit was roused, and he quickly walked over. Lin Xiuping also followed behind with an expectant expression. The 3 of them came to the side of the well and looked into it. The water in the well was calm and still, reflecting the bright moon. Li Wanlu opened his right eye, emitting a scarlet light. His gaze focused, and he instantly locked onto something. He pointed at the bottom of the well and said excitedly, "Over there, 3 inches above the water." Lin Yuanshou squinted his eyes for a while, and his pupils suddenly shrunk. He could vaguely see a speck of light floating above the water, and he shouted in surprise, "Quick, describe the appearance of this Gu." Li Wanlu said suspiciously, "It is very blurry, like an illusion, like reality, like a falling bamboo leaf, like a butterfly fluttering among flowers, and then directly disappearing." Lin Yuanshou's excited expression turned cold as he listened, and he said disappointedly, "This is not the blood infant Gu, it is the moon in the water Gu, an illusion-type Gu that can create illusions, and make people fall into layers of illusions, unable to extricate themselves." Lin Xiuping's gaze flashed. "Second uncle, is this Gu precious?" Lin Yuanshou chuckled. "Have you heard of the legend of the full moon well? A long time ago, there was a mysterious ancient well. During the full moon, if people looked down, they would see the person they loved the most, or the thing they wanted the most. For example, if a girl was pursued by 2 boys at the same time, and did not know which one to choose, she would go to the full moon well to take a look. Whoever she saw in the well water, the girl would be sure of who she truly loved, and would marry that person. Sigh, those people were too ignorant, they did not know the truth of the full moon well. In fact, there was a moon in the water Gu in the well, and what they saw was only an illusion created by the moon in the water Gu. Lin Xiuping was somewhat perplexed. That means, what they saw was all fake? Lin Yuanshou shook his head. No. Illusions are born from the heart. The moon in the water Gu is only showing their true desires. It is an illusion-type Gu, but it can give people reality. Lin Xiaoping could not help but feel envious. He looked left and right, asking, "How do I get this goo?" Lin Yuanshou's lips curled up and he sighed. "This goo is called moon in the water, it means nothing. If you try to fish it out, it will dissipate and your efforts will be in vain. There are all kinds of goo in the world, and some goo are destined not to be obtained by humans." After saying this, Lin Yuanshou was stunned, and a trace of uneasiness appeared in his heart. Some words could not be said, lest they become prophecies. "Ah, I can't get it." Lin Xiaoping was greatly disappointed. He glared at Li Wanlu, shouting, "What are you still doing here? Hurry up and find it." Li Wanlu was cursing Lin Xiaoping's ancestors in his heart, but on the surface, he showed a fawning smile, and hurriedly looked around. "Child's father, what happened to you?" "Child's father." A woman's cry suddenly resounded. The three turned around and saw a woman in thin clothes lying in front of the dead man, shaking and calling out. Lin Yuanshou frowned and immediately signaled Li Wanlu with his eyes. The latter did not say anything, and threw an icicle at her. The woman groaned, holding her neck that was spurting blood, and fell to the ground. Li Wanlu walked over, and suddenly found that this woman's looks were not bad, and her figure was quite good as well. He could not help but lick his lips. If not for Lin Yuanshou, he would have already taken off his pants. Playing with a woman whose life was hanging by a thread, it was a special feeling. "Mother, mother!" Suddenly, a 3 to 4-year-old boy ran out of the house, shouting in a childish voice. "Damn it, is there an end to this?" Li Wanlu impatiently kicked, the boy flew up, crashed into the wall, and fell down, his body twisted on the ground, unknown if he was dead or alive. Right at this moment, a blood-red light flashed outside the wall. That is. Li Wanlu was dazed for a second, then he abandoned the boy and chased out excitedly. Seeing this, Lin Yuanshou and Lin Xiaoping looked at each other, and hurriedly followed. The three of them entered a dark alleyway. There was no light source in the surroundings, but they could see a red dot flying around. "Li Wanlu, did you see it clearly?" Lin Yuanshou was extremely excited. The wrinkles on his face bloomed like chrysanthemums. Li Wanlu's eyes almost popped out. "It looks like a baby, has wings, blood-red skin, and 2 fangs outside its mouth. There is no mistake, it is the blood infant goo." Lin Yuanshou was overjoyed and stretched out his hand. Lin Xiaoping immediately handed over the wine jar in his bag. Lin Yuanshou took it and opened it. Immediately, a strong smell of blood gushed out, quickly spreading in the alley. "Come, it is all the blood of virgin boys and girls, drink until you are full." Lin Yuanshou laughed eerily, his eyes flashing with a terrifying bloody light. Sure enough, the red dot flashed and landed beside the wine jar, and started sucking. Only now did Lin Yuanshou see the red dot's appearance clearly, and was overjoyed. "Ha, some goo are destined to be mine." Lin Yuanshou cut his finger, and dripped a drop of blood on the blood infant goo. "Drink, drink, my blood is fresher." Slurp. The blood infant goo drank his blood. Immediately, Lin Yuanshou's gaze turned crazy, and he carried the blood jar, and returned the way he came. "Not bad, not bad, you found the blood infant goo right away, it seems the white brows scarlet eyes goo is indeed extraordinary." Lin Xiaoping could not help but click his tongue. Li Wanlu rubbed his hands and said flatteringly, "Being able to serve Senior Lin and Brother Lin is my fortune from 8 lifetimes. Don't worry, my second uncle is a man of his words. After killing Xinlian, the Grandmaster Gu on him is yours." Lin Xiaoping waved his hand to interrupt him, and then chased after Lin Yuanshou. Li Wanlu's expression was uncertain, as if he had something on his mind. The three returned to that house. "Emoer is not back yet?" After opening the door, Lin Yuanshou casually asked. Lin Xiaoping was also curious. "He went out and did not return. Did something happen?" Lin Yuanshou sneered. "Ignore her, I will refine the blood infant goo, you guys protect me. After tonight, I will return to my peak." He did not go into the house, and directly sat cross-legged in the courtyard. He cut open the artery on his wrist, and blood flowed out happily. The blood infant Gu flew over, and sucked in large mouthfuls of warm blood. Not long later, an intense thought was released. Ha ha! Lin Yuanshou laughed wildly, as if he had gone mad. The blood infant Gu drilled into his body, and went straight to his heart. These scenes appeared in Lin Yuanshou's mind, and he was looking forward to the moment when the blood infant Gu built its nest and opened its aperture. The blood infant Gu stopped in front of his heart and drooled. Lin Yuanshou was stunned and suddenly felt uneasy. The next second, the blood infant Gu shook its body and turned into a lizard, opening its mouth and biting towards his heart like eating a cake. Oh my God! Chapter 38. Second Uncle. Lin Xiaoping was stunned and at a loss as he watched Lin Yuanshou rolling on the ground as if he had been electrocuted. Li Wanlu was also stunned and at a loss. What was going on? What? Lin Yuanshou spat out a mouthful of blood, causing Lin Xiaoping's face to turn red. This made Lin Xiaoping extremely frightened. Eat, heart! Lin Yuanshou tried his best to express something, but the piercing pain caused him to be tongue-tied and his words were unclear. Shit? Second uncle, do you want to shit? Lin Xiaoping asked in a panic. Lin Yuanshou spat out another mouthful of blood, this time due to anger. Li Wanlu rolled his eyes and was speechless. No matter how he looked at this situation, it seemed like something big had happened. How could he want to shit? But then he thought again. Sigh, this old man is not young anymore and he is heavily injured. Perhaps this is really possible. Is he having diarrhea? Li Wanlu pondered as his gaze moved back and forth between Lin Yuanshou's crotch. Hearing this, Lin Yuanshou was anxious as he stretched out his trembling finger. His eyes were wide open as he stared at Li Wanlu angrily. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood. In the next moment, Lin Yuanshou's body froze as he stopped breathing. His twisted expression froze on his face as his eyes almost popped out. His gaze and finger were directed at Li Wanlu. Second uncle? Lin Xiaoping looked at Lin Yuanshou and then at Li Wanlu. He seemed to have understood something as he stood up and looked at Li Wanlu coldly. Li Wanlu was dumbfounded and suddenly panicked as he waved his hand. It's not me, it has nothing to do with me. You dare to harm my second uncle? Lin Xiaoping was furious as his gaze turned cold. Li Wanlu was at a loss for words as he shouted, Don't slander me. I didn't do anything. What good does it do for me if your second uncle dies? I was still hoping that he would help me kill Shun Lian. Good? Lin Xiaoping chuckled. You also want the blood infant Gu, right? Tell me, what did you do? Is it poison or some kind of curse? Li Wanlu took a few steps back and flew into a rage out of humiliation. Lin Xiaoping, what do you want? Even if you're from the family Lin, if you piss me off, I'll still kill you. Lin Xiaoping sneered, Do you think you have such a chance? Li Wanlu's heart shook as he glanced at the door and intended to flee. My second uncle often taught me that before I understand what Gu a Gu master has, I cannot act rashly. Li Wanlu, you shouldn't have let me pat your shoulder. Lin Xiaoping glanced at Lin Yuanshou and sighed inexplicably. Li Wanlu was confused by what he heard. Look, what is this? Lin Xiaoping slowly took out a strand of hair and waved it in front of Li Wanlu's eyes, pausing after every word. This is your hair, and I have a Gu called Piercing Little Man. Li Wanlu was extremely frightened, and his face instantly turned pale. In the next moment, Lin Xiaoping's true essence circulated in his hands and covered the strand of hair. Suddenly, the strand of hair changed. A little man that looked similar to Li Wanlu appeared in Lin Xiaoping's hands. The little man was only the size of a palm and was grabbed by Lin Xiaoping's left hand. With a flip of his right hand, a silver needle appeared out of nowhere and pierced towards the little man's eyeball. Ah! Li Wanlu screamed in pain as he held his right eye. Blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers. No, Lin Xiaoping indifferently pulled out the silver needle and pierced towards the little man's other eye. Ice crystal Gu? Icicle. Li Wanlu endured the pain and shot out an icicle, but Lin Xiaoping was prepared and easily dodged it. The silver needle pierced deeply into the little man's eye. Ah! Li Wanlu's eyes were instantly destroyed. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die. He recklessly shot out icicles around him. One of the icicles accidentally brushed past Lin Xiaoping's hair. A trace of blood flowed out. Lin Xiaoping was furious. He grabbed the little man's right arm and tore it off. Poochie! Li Wanlu's right arm flew out of his body, blood spurted out like a sprinkler and splattered all over the ground. Ha ha, watch how I torture you to death, Lin Xiaoping sneered. He revealed a cruel and enjoyable smile. He grabbed the little man's left leg and tore it off. Li Wanlu's leg flew out, his whole body fell to the ground and twitched. I'll torture you to death, I'll torture you to death. Lin Xiaoping tore off the remaining arm and leg as well. Li Wanlu's limbs were all gone. He breathed his last in extreme pain. This guy had tortured countless budding young girls. Now that he was being tortured to death, he had probably never thought he would end up like this. Li Wanlu died, the little man also dissipated. Lin Xiaoping clapped his hands and let out a breath of turbid air. Right at this time, he suddenly heard footsteps. He turned around and was stunned. Shun Lian, it's you. He almost blurted out, why are you not dead? Shun Lian walked over slowly. His face was as calm as still water. He was carrying a large wooden box. He placed it on the ground and opened it under Lin Xiaoping's gaze. There was a thick blanket in the box. After opening the blanket, a bear paw and several icicles were revealed. The northern land's climate was extremely cold. It was easy to get a few icicles. As for using a blanket to wrap the icicles, it was the knowledge of heat in physics. There were 3 ways of heat transfer: conduction, convection, and radiation. For the blanket that wrapped the icicles, it could effectively prevent these methods of heat transfer. The heat from the outside would not enter easily, while the cold air inside would not come out easily. It had the effect of maintaining the temperature. This way, the icicles would not melt. Children born in the 80s should have seen this before. Ice cream sellers used a blanket to wrap their icicles. Do you know that I have great confidence in killing Lin Yuanshou? However, after that old thing dies, how should I deal with you and Li Wanlu? That's a tricky question. How should I kill all of you without incurring the wrath of the Lin family? I've been thinking for a long time. Shun Lian lightly picked up one of the icicles. I prepared the bear paw after killing Li Wanlu. I will frame you because you have the bear paw goo. I also prepared the icicles after killing you. I will frame Li Wanlu because he has the ice crystal goo. However, Lin Xiaoping, your stupidity made all of this extremely simple, wasting all of my preparations. Hearing these words, Lin Xiaoping was deeply frightened. Suddenly, he remembered that the shit that second uncle said before he died was actually food. He wanted to say the heart-eating goo, but he misheard and wronged Li Wanlu. For a moment, Lin Xiaoping was completely speechless, like a dog. You can't blame me, second uncle pointed at Li Wanlu before he died. How can I not misunderstand? But who would have thought that second uncle would shoot himself in the foot? His own heart-eating goo was used by Shun Lian to kill him. Lin Xiaoping's breathing stagnated. He was afraid. You want to kill me? For Senior by Li Fei. For Shun family. For the citizens of Snow Ridge City. Lin Xiaoping, it won't be enough even if you die 1,000 times. Shun Lian raised the icicles and quickly closed in. Light surged on Lin Xiaoping's right hand. It quickly turned into a giant bear paw and swept towards Shun Lian. Shun Lian did not dodge. He ignored Lin Xiaoping's bear paw and only pointed the icicles forward. The icicles were like swords, graceful and elegant. Puff! The icicles pierced Lin Xiaoping's chest, piercing through his heart cleanly. With a loud bang, Lin Xiaoping's bear paw also landed on Shun Lian's body at the same time. However, Shun Lian was completely unharmed. You! Lin Xiaoping swayed. Only then did he see that Shun Lian's body was covered in a layer of iron jade light. He immediately showed an expression like he had seen a ghost. Iron Jade Gu. You refined the Iron Jade Gu in less than a day? Lin Xiaoping's heart had already stopped beating, but the doubt on his face was getting thicker. Shen Lian felt a burst of joy. He did not even look at the fallen Lin Xiaoping. He turned around and left. The battle between Gu masters was so mysterious. Shen Lian might not be able to take down Li Wanlu in a short period of time, but Lin Xiaoping could torture him to death. And Lin Xiaoping, who was still overbearing and arrogant a moment ago, was instantly killed by Shen Lian. The wonders of the Gu Dao were indescribable. Early the next morning, someone reported to the Yamen that a murder had occurred in a house in the southern part of the city. There were 4 dead people, 3 males and 1 female. Head Constable Chen Yuan Guang led the constables to the scene. The district magistrate also came. He promised that he would investigate the case and punish the murderer. 3 days later, the district magistrate confirmed the identity of the deceased and sent an urgent letter to the magistrate. 7 to 8 days had passed since then. A few days later, a person called Lin Yuanchang brought several retainers and walked into the Yamen with the imperial court's decree. They are finally here. When the news reached the Shen residence, Shen Lian was the first to know. Soon after, Shen Wanquan, Wang Fugui's father and others were also called over by the district magistrate. Lin Yuanchang, however, was not in the mood to attend the banquet. She directly brought people to the Coffin Manor to inspect the corpses. Coffin Manor. 3 corpses and a mutilated corpse were placed together. 3 males and 1 female. The female seemed to have been tortured to death. Her face was swollen, and there were many bruises on her body. Her lower body was horrible to look at. The district magistrate was trembling with fear. He did not dare to speak much. Instead, it was Chen Yuanguang who spoke frankly and analyzed the case. We have already investigated. Among the 4 dead, 3 of them lived together, Lin Yuanshou, Lin Xiaoping and a girl called Mo Er. The other person was the rampant rapist, Li Wanlu. We speculate that Li Wanlu infiltrated this house and was raping Miss Mo Er when he was discovered by Lin Yuanshou and Lin Xiaoping. They fought and died together. But the deceased died in such a miserable state, we cannot explain what kind of power caused this. Lin Yuanchang acted as if she did not hear anything. She waved her hand and let the unrelated people leave. Several retainers began to inspect the corpses while discussing. Lin Yuanshou is uninjured, but his heart is missing. He should have died from heart-eating goo. The heart-eating goo ran away after eating his heart. Lin Xiaoping died from a piercing wound, but there was no weapon. From the frostbite on the wound, he died from an icicle-type weapon. Looking at Li Wanlu's miserable state, I am sure he was tortured to death by Lin Xiaoping's little man Gu. Li Wanlu has ice crystal Gu. I am guessing that at the moment of his death, he shot out an icicle and killed Lin Xiaoping. Lin Yuan Chang's gaze was fixed. She did not speak. About an hour later, a retainer reported, "They have been dead for a long time. Their Gu have all died in their apertures. Some cannot even be found. Only Li Wanlu's ice crystal Gu is still alive. Sigh, what a pity. His joyous union Gu is very precious." Only at this moment did Lin Yuanchang reveal a smile. To be able to obtain ice crystal Gu for free, this trip was not in vain. Let's go. A retainer asked, "What about the corpses?" "Let the officials bury them on the spot. They died without a complete corpse." Lin Yuanchang held the ice crystal Gu, smiling as she said casually. Chapter 39. Outside the door of the Coffin Manor, Shen Wanchuan's expression was calm, but he was extremely nervous and his back was drenched in sweat. He was worried that Lin Yuanchang would find out something. However, after Lin Yuanchang walked out of the Coffin Manor, he did not say anything and left directly. Just like that, he left? Find a grave and bury the corpse, one of the retainers said to the district magistrate before leaving. One could imagine how wonderful everyone's expression was at that time. These people from aristocratic families are really strange in their actions. They cannot be judged with common sense. Watching the group leave, Wang Fugui's father was speechless, shaking his head and sighing. False alarm. Shun Wanchuan's expression was strange for a while, then he suddenly became ecstatic. After returning to the residence, he told Shun Lian about the matter. Shun Lian was also speechless for a while, not expecting this to happen. Yes, who would have thought that this life and death calamity would be so easy to get away with, and the many backup plans that he had prepared previously were not even used. Then he went to the coffin manor and saw the corpse. Only then did he understand that Lin Yuanchang did not care about Lin Yuanshou and Lin Xiaoping's deaths. He came for the gu in the corpse. After a gu master dies, the gu will also decay, and after a long time, the aperture will collapse and cease to exist. Before that, as long as the gu is not dead, it can be obtained by other gu masters. In the small courtyard, Mo sat opposite Shen Lian and said softly, "People from aristocratic families value gu above everything else, including kinship. This Lin Yuanchang is also an outsider, and it is inevitable that he would have enmity with Lin Yuanshou in the fight for power. He naturally would not investigate the cause of Lin Yuanshou's death, and might even be happy to see this. Compared to this, Lin Yuanchang cared more about what he could get from this trip. Hearing your description, he had a smile on his face when he left. He should have obtained a gu that is not dead yet. Otherwise, he might have found some excuses to extort a sum of money before leaving." Xinlian heaved a sigh of relief. At that time, he was worried that the aristocratic families would find out something, so he did not touch the gu in the corpse. Now that he thought about it, this was the right thing to do. The Shen family had escaped death and survived another calamity. Moreover, it was not that he did not gain anything, other than refining the iron jade gu. He also obtained a treasure, heart-eating gu. The only problem was that this gu fed on human hearts. Every half a month, a human heart had to be fed to it. In conclusion, this was the first battle between a Shun Lian and a gu master. The dangers and strangeness within were indescribable with words, allowing him to see the tip of the iceberg of the gu master world. Mo what do you plan to do next? Mo's corpse in the mortuary was a nameless corpse that had died in the wilderness. The real Mo had gone through this tribulation and was completely free. Replying to young master, Mo is also an orphan and has no home to return to. You are my savior. Mo is willing to listen to your arrangements. If you do not despise Mo is willing to serve you for the rest of my life. Mo knelt on the ground and lowered his head as he spoke in an exceptionally serious manner. Xinlian narrowed his eyes and raised his hand. Are you sure you want to do this? I can give you a sum of money and let you live a free life. Why bother being a slave? Mo resolutely knelt on the ground. Mo has no one to rely on. I'm willing to ask young master to take me in. Xinlian was silent for a moment before saying, In that case, you can stay by my side and start anew. However, you can no longer be called Mo. Change your name to Bai Ling. How about it? I hope that the rest of your life will be as happy as a lark. Mo was extremely happy and said with tears in her eyes, Thank you, young master, for bestowing this name. From now on, this servant is young master's Bai Ling. At this time, Sun Yuanxiang arrived. Bai Ling tactfully excused herself. Old uncle. Xinlian got up and helped Sun Yuanxiang to sit down. Sun Yuanxiang's body had recovered quite well. When he sat down, he glanced at Bai Ling, who had left, and sighed deeply. Young master, it is too dangerous to keep this woman. Xinlian understood the meaning of these words. He was advising him to kill her to silence her. Bai Ling had been working under Lin Yuanshou for 3 years. Her thoughts were definitely not as simple as they appeared to be. She had knelt down and begged Xinlian to take her in. This was clearly a way to protect herself after careful consideration. In fact, if Bai Ling had shown the slightest intention of leaving, Xinlian would have killed her immediately and put an end to everything. Xinlian sighed and said, Old uncle, in a few days, I will leave for Ronghua City and officially enter the circle of Gu masters. Bai Ling is experienced and knowledgeable. I need a talent like her by my side. It is good that young master understands. I was just reminding you. Sun Yuanxiang thought for a moment and stopped persuading him. The main reason was that he felt that young master was extremely intelligent and would not be unable to control a woman. Xinlian nodded and looked at the birdcage hanging under the eaves. He said playfully, "Only the Bai Ling bird in the cage can sing about the blue sky and white clouds. I believe it can also sing about the faraway place." Kushan. The mountain was majestic and lofty. This mountain was located to the north of Ronghua City. Its back faced Wei River and was an important transportation route. It was blessed by the heavens. There was an ancient temple on the mountain called Kushan Temple. In the ancient temple, there were over 200 monks. From afar, one could hear the Buddhists chanting. It was majestic and made one's heart calm down. Good mountain, good water, good temple. Xiezhen traveled to this place and looked up at this Kushan. He only felt that the scenery was magnificent. Even though he had traveled around for many years and was knowledgeable, he was still conquered by the marvelous scenery of Kushan. Not long after, Xiezhen entered the ancient temple. He looked around and saw that every brick and tile in the temple was simple and heavy, showing the vicissitudes of time. The aura of thousands of years of accumulation was pressing against his face, making him feel reverence. "I have traveled to this place. I wonder if I can stay here for a night?" Xiezhen asked a monk with a gentle smile. The monk replied, "Benefactor, our temple has a rule. Any mortal guest who comes here can have free food and lodging for 3 days. However, they must pay at least 5 taels of incense money to our Buddha." Xiezhen touched his pocket and could not help but sweat. He smiled bitterly. "I'm embarrassed. I only have 2 taels." The monk thought for a moment and said, "Wait here. I'll go ask the abbot." Xiezhen thanked him profusely. Not long after, the monk returned and said, "The abbot said that there are more empty rooms in the temple. Benefactor can have food and lodging for 3 days. However, our temple only has simple tea and plain food. Benefactor, please be mentally prepared." Xiezhen did not care about these things. He quickly handed over the 2 taels of silver. Then, the monk led him into a room and told him about the rules of the temple, such as which places could be entered and which could not be entered. After the monk left, Xiezhen scanned the room and found many books on the bookshelves. He was delighted and took them to read carefully. This was the first time Xiezhen came into contact with Buddhist scriptures. He could not help but be deeply attracted by the concepts of delivering all living beings from the sea of suffering, persuading people to do good, karma reincarnation, and other Buddhist concepts. It was as if he had been baptized, forgetting to eat and sleep. Unknowingly, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the abbot's room, the snow-white bearded master Kongming sat cross-legged on a praying mat with his eyes closed. His hands were pinching Buddhist beads and his lips were moving up and down. Right at this moment, with a creak, the door of the room was pushed open. Master. The person who came was a ferocious-looking monk who seemed to be stuttering. "Juyuan, what's the matter? Why are you so flustered?" Master Kongming asked without opening his eyes. Juyuan took a long time before he could finish his sentence. "The Buddha heart Gu has suddenly shown." "What?" Master Kongming's eyes widened and shot out a terrifying light. His expression changed and his composure from earlier was gone. He crawled up hurriedly and rushed to the treasure chamber. Boom! The moment the door of the treasure chamber was pushed open, the entire room was filled with light. It was as though a true Buddha had descended, radiating with boundless brilliance and holiness. The light came from within a Buddhist shrine. Master Kongming pounced over and hugged the Buddhist shrine with a complicated expression. There was shock, fear, anger, and jealousy. The awakening of the Buddha heart Gu means that there is a bodhisattva in the vicinity. A Buddha is about to be born in Buddhism. Master Kongming's expression was uncertain and the light in his eyes changed rapidly. He hugged the Buddhist shrine tightly and did not loosen his grip. After a while, he laughed bitterly. Why, Buddha Heart Gu, I have painstakingly raised you for more than 50 years. I fed you with my blood every day and chanted Buddhist scriptures for you every day. I persevered and persevered, but you still refuse to acknowledge me as a bodhisattva. How am I not worthy of you? Why are you willing to shine for others but not willing to look at me? Good, good, good. Master Kongming's expression was ferocious and twisted like an evil spirit. He revealed a crazed expression. Don't blame me for being unrighteous. I will kill every bodhisattva you choose until you are refined by me. You only belong to me. Master Kongming suddenly turned his head. Jiuyuan, who came near the treasure chamber today? Jiuyuan thought for a while and said fiercely, Fanning, he was on duty today and came in to clean. Fanning, that little monk who came here a month ago? Yes, his comprehension is not bad and he has a deep affinity with Buddhism. What a pity! Master Kongming sighed indifferently and gave a signal with his eyes. Jiuyuan understood and nodded. He turned around and walked out of the Buddhist scripture chamber with a murderous expression. As soon as he walked out, he felt a lump in his throat. He actually bumped into a monk who was sweeping the floor. Jiuyuan was shocked. He rubbed his sore nose and looked carefully. It turned out to be Mute Monk. This person had been poisoned many years ago and was homeless. He was taken in by the abbot and was responsible for carrying water and sweeping the floor. Mute Monk lowered his head and swept the floor as if the world had nothing to do with him. Jiuyuan didn't know if Mute Monk had heard his conversation with his master. But then he thought about it. Even if Mute Monk heard it, so what? Who could he tell? Therefore, Jiuyuan only glared at Mute Monk and quickly left. He took a rope and walked towards Fanning's room. Fanning was a young monk, only 17 years old. He had delicate features and bright eyes. When he saw Jiuyuan standing outside with a rope in his hand, he was stunned for a few seconds and asked curiously, Martial uncle, you are? Jiuyuan sneered and stepped into the room. He closed the door behind him, and then wrapped the rope around Fanning's neck and tightened it. Chapter 40. In the study, Shen Wanquan looked at the title deed in his hand and sighed deeply. His expression was somewhat complicated. After a while, Shen Lian came. Father! Lian, come here. Shen Wanquan was refreshed. He smiled and handed over the title deed. He said slowly, The arrangements in Ronghua City have been made. This is a house bought in your name. There are all kinds of furniture. When you arrive in Ronghua City, you can move in directly. Ronghua City is much more prosperous than Snow Ridge City. The real estate is expensive. This is just a small house. It can't be compared with our mansion. When you arrive there, I'm afraid that you will suffer a lot. You must be mentally prepared. I know. Shen Lian took the title deed and nodded slowly. Then he put it away. Father, don't worry. I will take good care of myself. Well, before you leave, spend more time with your second mother. When she heard that you were leaving, she didn't sleep well for a few days. She lost a lot of weight. I am unfilial. I remember that you once wrote a poem, Fierce Ambition to Travel the World. Qian Jin thinks far and wide. A real man should aspire to travel the world. You have grown up. It is time for you to go out and explore. While the father and son were talking, Steward Fanli and Suelon came in. The day before yesterday, Fanli officially accepted Suelon as his disciple and appointed her as his successor. This matter caused a lot of waves in the Shen mansion. In fact, Fanli had accepted several disciples before and trained them carefully. He was going to choose one of them to take over his position when he retired. However, that day, Shen Lian casually said, Suelon, you should learn more from Steward Fan about how to manage the accounts. From that moment on, Fanli knew that Shen Lian intended to let Suelon take over his position. Therefore, he arranged several disciples to work in the shops outside the mansion. He accepted Suelon as his last disciple and taught her wholeheartedly. It was not hard to imagine how depressed Fan Li's disciples were. When other people heard that Shun Lian wanted to promote a woman to be a steward, they felt that it was interesting. Naturally, there was an interesting topic to talk about after dinner. Suelon, on the other hand, cried loudly. Because the Shen Lian asked her to stay in the mansion and learn from Fan Li, she couldn't go to Ronghua City with the Shen Lian. She cried and said that she didn't want to be a housekeeper. She didn't want anything. She just wanted to serve her master. Shen Lian spent a lot of effort to convince her. He even gained 4 points of confusion. It was obvious that Cui Lan really wanted to be by his side. This also proved that Shen Lian was right. Cui Lan would be a loyal and reliable housekeeper in the future. Master, eldest young master's travel expenses have been prepared. Fan Li held a brocade box with both hands and handed it over. This old servant has gathered the spare money in the storehouse and took out 600,000 taels. Xin Wanquan nodded and said, Lien Heir still has 5 million. With this 600,000, we should be able to handle the situation in Ronghua City for a while. That's enough. Shen Lian felt warmth in his heart. He had never intended to take money from his family. After that, Shen Lian went to visit his second mother. Then, he accompanied Shen Xiaoshu to go shopping and bid farewell to some friends. They arrived at the Wang family. Brother Lian, you're leaving? Wang Fugue was shocked. His eyebrows instantly twisted into a knot. He sighed as if he had something on his mind. Shen Lian nodded and said, I'm going to Ronghua City. Why? Do you want to go too? Wang Fugue sighed. Actually, I also want to leave Snow Ridge City. But I haven't made up my mind. I've been hesitating for a while. In fact, the real reason why Wang Fugue wanted to leave Snow Ridge City was Lin Xiuping. During the period of monitoring this guy, Wang Fugue witnessed what Lin Xiuping did with his own eyes. Only then did he realize how lowly a young master like him was in front of the aristocratic families. They could kill him with one finger, and would not have to take any responsibility afterward. This kind of monitoring gave him a deeper and more terrifying feeling than the fear of the 3-day massacre by the demons. Therefore, Wang Fugue wanted to develop in a bigger city. As the saying goes, big but not fall. As long as the city was big enough and the population was large enough, the demons would naturally be less troublesome and the aristocratic families would not kill at will. As soon as Wang Fugue said these thoughts, Shen Lian vaguely understood the influence of the last time he was persuaded to monitor Lin Xiuping. Have you thought about where you want to go? Shen Lian pondered for a moment and asked. Wang Fugue nodded. The Central Plains. My grandmother's family is in the Central Plains. There are some properties of the Wang family there. I can directly take over after I go there. I don't need to live under someone else's roof. Okay, I'll leave in 3 days. If you've made up your mind, let me know and we'll go together. Okay. 3 days later, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Shen Lian and Wang Fugue met in front of the city gate and set off for the south. Wang Fugue got 7 carriages and brought a lot of luggage and attendants. He even brought a cook. This guy was afraid that he would not be used to the food in the Central Plains. There were only 2 carriages on Shen Lian's side. One carriage was for passengers while the other carriage was for luggage. It was considered a light journey and only Bailing was following him. Along the way, with Wang Fugue taking care of him, he did not have to worry about food and drink. About 10 days later, the group of carriages slowly reached Deer Mountain. Suddenly, it was as if a spring breeze had arrived at night. The sky was filled with lush greenery, lush with light. Numerous flowers were in full bloom, colorful and brilliant, extremely beautiful. In particular, the spring in this world was very short, only about a month or so. In this season, the plants grew crazily as if they were full of energy. Countless flowers bloomed and withered and bloomed again. The ground and trees were full of the feeling of spring. The scenery of Deer Mountain was very beautiful. There were no villages or shops on this road. There were very few people. Looking around, it was a primitive and pure natural scenery. Hibiscus from clear water, carved by nature. This kind of beautiful scenery that was not embellished by anyone, and the original flavor made people feel relaxed and happy at a glance. Wang Fugue looked excited and said, "Brother Lien, after Deer Mountain, we'll reach Ronghua City in 2 or 3 days. You and I will have to part. I don't know when we'll meet again. Why don't we take this opportunity to visit Deer Mountain and live up to the beautiful scenery?" Shen Lian looked around and was in a good mood. He smiled and said, "Happy New Year, live up to the beauty of youth." The two of them parked the carriages at the foot of the mountain and slowly climbed the mountain. When they were halfway up the mountain, they suddenly saw a cloud of mist shrouding the road ahead. Countless bees and butterflies were flying around. Not far away, beside a gurgling stream, there was a big smooth rock. A woman in white was combing her hair with her back facing the two of them. Her movements were beautiful and quiet. Wang Fugue looked at the woman's back and his eyes were fixed. He pulled Shen Lian's sleeve and said, "Brother Lien, look, there's a beauty." Shen Lian also saw the woman combing her hair. His eyes suddenly flashed and he casually asked, "How do you know she's a beauty?" Wang Fugue smiled proudly, "Haha, you don't know. I have 3 special skills: smell a beauty, feel a beauty, and you know a beauty by looking at her back, right?" Shen Lian rolled his eyes and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Wang Fugue laughed for a while. "Let's go and have a look?" Shen Lian thought for a while and nodded. The two of them walked forward with light footsteps and stopped 3 meters away from the big rock. The fragrance of flowers. It was not until then that Shen Lian noticed that the woman's white clothes were made of intertwined snow-white petals. It was incredible that it could dance with the wind. The strong fragrance of flowers also came from her. Wang Fugue did not seem to notice this. He tidied his clothes and coughed. He smiled and said, "Greetings to this beautiful lady." The woman in white was still combing her hair, as if she did not hear anything. Wang Fugue was stunned. He took 3 steps forward and shouted again in a louder voice. A few birds were frightened and flew away. They chirped as if they were laughing at him. The woman in white was indifferent. The scene was very awkward. Is she deaf? Wang Fugue was speechless and his face was full of suspicion. Suddenly, he saw Shen Lian laughing at the side. He could not help but feel embarrassed. "What are you laughing at? Why don't you do it?" Shen Lian pretended to play along and tidied up his clothes. He coughed lightly and mimicked Wang Fugue's tone. He cupped his hands and smiled. "Nice to meet you, beautiful lady." Suddenly, the white-clothed woman stopped combing her hair and slowly turned her body. Although only half of her face was exposed, her long hair was covered, and the surrounding light was also faintly hazy, but she still gave people a kind of breathtaking beauty. For some reason, Shen Lian felt like he was seeing an illusion. The surrounding flowers were all blooming at a speed visible to the naked eye. The woman in white stared at Shen Lian for a while. Then she reached out and picked up a shell from the big rock and placed it among the flowers. A gust of wind blew, all the flowers immediately fell to the place where the shell was. The crystal-clear dew between the petals rolled and dripped into the shell, accumulating a lot of dew in a moment. The woman in white held up the shell and presented it to Shen Lian as if inviting him to drink. "You are inviting me to drink dew?" Shen Lian felt more and more surprised. He took the shell and looked at it. The dew inside was shining with a strange luster under the sunlight. It was as if he was not looking at dew, but a spring of life. Gulp. Shen Lian drank it in one gulp. The taste was sweet and refreshing. After drinking it, his body felt indescribably comfortable. He felt for a while and his eyes shone brightly, as if he had discovered something incredible. The refreshing feeling of the dew spread in his body and actually seeped into the apertures of the Grandmaster Gu and the Iron Jade Gu, causing a strange change. The green copper primeval essence in the two apertures showed signs of growth under the refreshing feeling. One had to know that the green copper primeval essence only occupied 70% of the space in these two apertures. Xunlian could not change this result no matter how hard he tried. But who would have thought that the dew of the woman in white would allow Xunlian to advance again? This, Xunlian could not help but be surprised. He raised his head and looked at the woman in white. Just as he was about to ask something, the woman in white smiled and suddenly turned into countless petals and scattered with the wind. The big rock was empty and the ground was covered with flowers. The wind was warm and the birds and beasts were chirping. Brother Lien, why is the beauty? Chapter 41. Hearing the fat man's question, Xunlian's face was full of questions as if he did not know how to answer them. At this time, Wang Fugue looked left and right, rubbed his nose, and suddenly turned to Xunlian. He rushed over and smelled Xunlian. Damn, what are you doing? Xunlian pushed the fat man away. Wang Fugue was slightly infatuated and said in surprise, Brother Lien, your body smells so good, it smells like flowers, it smells so good. Xunlian smelled, and sure enough, his body was emitting a strange floral scent, surging and surging. It made him 100 times more energetic, and his mind became exceptionally clear. Hey, this fragrance! It was as if it was mixed with the fragrance of hundreds of flowers. The fragrance was rich, incomparable, and intoxicating. Xunlian was inexplicably surprised. Fortunately, this situation only lasted for a moment, and finally there were signs of it stopping. An hour later, the fragrance on Xunlian's body gradually faded, and turned into a plain and pure aura, like the morning dew or the lotus flower in the rain. There were a few majestic deer shuttling back and forth in the mountains. When they passed by, they stopped to look at the two people, and then jumped into the depths of the forest, disappearing in a flash. The woman in white did not appear again, as if she had never appeared. The two people looked at each other, and no longer had the mood to play. They returned to the carriage with countless questions. Back in the carriage, Xunlian called Bai Ling over. He described what he had seen and heard in detail, and asked her if she had heard of such or similar things. After listening, Bai Ling was surprised and shook her head. I have never heard of it, but... She paused, thought for a moment, and then continued. I have heard that there is a white deer in Deer Mountain. The white deer is unusually large, 3 feet tall, with a crown on its head, and its whole body emitting a sacred white light. Those who are fated to see this white deer will not be the emperor, but a noble. Yes, there is also such a legend. A long time ago there was a kind girl. Her family was very poor, and her father was seriously ill. There was no medicine to cure him, and no money to see a doctor. The girl did not wish for her father to die of illness. She had heard that there was a mythological beast roaming around Deer Mountain. As long as there was enough sincerity, the mythological beast would appear and fulfill any wish of the person who made the wish. As a result, this kind-hearted girl came to Deer Mountain, knelt in front of the mountain, and made a vow in her heart. After kneeling for 7 days and 7 nights, she finally couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. When she woke up, she was lying on the back of a white deer. The white deer spoke in human language, and asked her if she really wanted to save her father. The girl nodded and said, yes. Bai Lu asked again, how much are you willing to pay to save your father? The girl said, at all costs. Thus, the white deer gave the girl a seed, and told her that she had to use her own body as a field, and use her flesh and blood to nourish the seed. When the seed grew and bloomed, her father would be saved. The girl did as she was told. She used a knife to cut open her belly and planted the seed inside. In the end, the seed really took root and sprouted in the girl's body. It grew stronger day by day, while the girl became weaker and weaker. 49 days later, the girl unfortunately passed away. The villagers who sympathized with the girl buried her at Deer Mountain. No one would have thought that after one night, the girl's grave would be filled with countless flowers, condensing into drops of dew that were like sparkling gems. There were villagers who collected the dew. After drinking it, they recovered from all kinds of illnesses. It was very miraculous. The girl's father also got better day by day after drinking the dew. Shen Lian, hearing this, finally understood why Bai Ling wanted to tell this story. There was a mention of dew, a very miraculous dew. What I have seen today is incredible. The carriages slowly moved and set off again. Shen Lian looked at Deer Mountain outside the window, his gaze not moving away for a long time. It was only until the carriages turned into a large road and Deer Mountain was blocked by large trees on both sides of the road that he retracted his gaze. His mood was still fluctuating. At this time, a strange feeling of hunger suddenly attacked him. This was a sign that the body's supply of primeval energy was insufficient. Shen Lian quickly threw away the doubts in his heart and gulped down the medicinal wine. When the carriages arrived at Ronghua City, the Grandmaster Gu and Iron Jade Gu's green copper primeval essence had occupied 80% of the space in their apertures and had stopped increasing again. I am now a Bronze Rank 8 Gu Master, the Grandmaster Gu is also Bronze Rank 8, the Iron Jade Gu is Bronze Rank 9, and there is also the Life-Twisting Gu, Milk Cow Gu, Heart-Eating Gu. Shen Lian looked at the majestic city built along the river. It was like a giant beast hibernating on the earth. He could not help but take a deep breath. His gaze was sharp and deep. A moment later, the sharpness gradually faded away. At first glance, he was still that elegant scholar who stood aloof from worldly affairs. Not long after Shen Lian's group left Deer Mountain. In the distant horizon, a large bird suddenly flew over. Only when it got closer could they see clearly that it was not a bird, but a birdman, a middle-aged man with a pair of wide wings. After the birdman landed on Deer Mountain, the wings on his back suddenly shrunk. At this time, he looked ordinary. His beard was sparse like a tassel hanging over his mouth. His gaze was slightly arrogant as he chanted while walking. Gather the morning dew, the essence of 100 flowers, brew the taste of fine wine. Not long after, the birdman arrived near the big rock. He looked around for a while and suddenly shouted in surprise, cursing angrily, "Fuck, where is the flower fairy? Who the hell took away my 100 flower dew?" Ronghua City connected the north and the south. It was the only way from the north to the Central Plains. Its strategic location was extremely important. Every dynasty had built high walls here and stationed troops to guard it. This formed the inner city with impenetrable walls. 100,000 elite heavy-armored soldiers were gathered here and trained day and night. However, there were few wars in Guyu country now. Ronghua City had been peaceful for a long time. The inner city was small and was occupied by the army. The city walls restricted development and were not conducive to development. Gradually, an open outer city was built around the inner city. Without the city walls, the trade developed rapidly and became the economic center of the north. The goods from the north and the Central Plains were imported and exported in Ronghua City. Many people in Ronghua City made a lot of money every day and made a lot of money. Naturally, the richest man in the north was born in Ronghua City. After parting with Wang Fugue, he continued to go south to the Central Plains. Shen Lian went to a residential area in the west of the outer city. Squeak! The door of the house slowly opened. Shen Lian stepped through the door and raised his head to take a look. It was an ordinary house. There was a small courtyard, a central room, and a side room with a kitchen. Compared to the luxurious mansion that Shen Lian used to live in, this was a far cry. It could even be said that it was extremely shabby. However, there was no other way. This was the real estate in Ronghua City. It was expensive. In fact, it was the same on Earth. The rough houses in Beijing were several times more expensive than the villas in second-tier cities. Bailing quickly moved the luggage in, settled them down, and cleaned the house. Shen Lian took the opportunity to write a letter to the coachman and asked him to pass it to Shen Wanquan when he returned. There was nothing urgent in the letter. It just told his family that he had arrived in Ronghua City safely and that everything was going well. He hoped that his family would not worry about him. The next morning, Xinlian took Bai Ling to walk around the city after breakfast, especially to some famous scenic spots. In this ancient world where there was no tourism, those who could go to the famous scenic spots were not ordinary people. Therefore, if one went to some special places, it was possible to meet some people from some special groups or circles. From there, one could understand what the upper class of Ronghua City was like. Watching clouds on the Twin Peaks mountain, painting boats on the Autumn Moon Lake. There are two must-see scenic spots in Ronghua City, the Twin Peaks mountain in the east and the Autumn Moon Lake in the west. Xunlian soon found out the good places. After that, he went to visit the two places. He found that the Twin Peaks mountain was indeed a scenic spot. There was nothing special about the Autumn Moon Lake. What attracted people was the painting boats on the lake. On the ship, there were beautiful and talented geisha. Every night they sang and sang, causing many people to be drunk and in a dream, throwing away a lot of money. The Twin Peaks mountain is a wonderful place. It's the best place since ancient times. The painting boats swim on the water in autumn. The wind and the moon are boundless. In the Feihua building, Xunlian sat at the table by the window, looking at the painting boats on the Autumn Moon Lake. He casually made up 4 sentences. Soon, the spring rain hit the windowsill. After a while, the sky cleared up. After a while, it started to rain again. Several well-dressed young masters and young ladies were drenched by the rain. They hurriedly ran into the Feihua building. Seeing this scene, Xunlian suddenly opened his paper fan. He looked as if he was drunk. He laughed loudly and said, "The weather is sunny and rainy. The building is next to the temple, and the temple is next to the mountain." Bai Ling was pouring wine on the side. She smiled and said, "Young master, you are in a good mood." Those young masters and young ladies turned their heads at the same time and looked at Xunlian. Their eyes were different, but they were full of interest. One of them winked at the others and walked over. He cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Brother, you are a talented poet? Would you like to invite us to drink together?" "I'm Xunlian. Friends, please sit down." Xunlian immediately cupped his hands and smiled. They reported their names and sat down. Bai Ling obediently poured wine for them one by one. "My dear friends, I shall drink first to show my respect." Xunlian smiled as he raised his wine cup and drank it all in one gulp. "Cheers." The other party also drank happily. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Xunlian quickly became familiar with them. He learned that these people were all locals of Ronghua City. Their families were rich. Among them, the one with the highest status was the beautiful woman sitting opposite him. This beautiful woman was called Hua Meifei. She had all the temperament that a young lady should have. Her body was graceful, charming, and elegant. The young masters present all looked at her with some passion. Xunlian asked around and found that these people had only heard about monsters. They had never seen or encountered monsters with their own eyes. Some people even doubted the existence of monsters. This made Xunlian a little disappointed. These people were obviously not in the circle he wanted to enter. At this time, the woman sitting next to Hua Meifei suddenly said, "An Yunhan, I heard that you recently got a good treasure. Show it to everyone." An Yunhan was an introverted and shy young man. There were a few red pimples on his face. When he heard this, he raised his head and saw that everyone was looking at him. He immediately held his breath nervously. His face instantly turned red to his neck. However, when he saw that Hua Meifei was also looking at him curiously, he suddenly had great courage. He raised his hand. The next scene, the wine glass in front of An Yunhan floated up and flew into the air. It hovered above everyone's head and slowly fell down under everyone's gaze. There was a sound of exclamation in the world. "Is this a magic trick?" Hua Meifei asked in surprise. Chapter 42. Gu Master? Hua Meifei's eyes were wide open, twinkling. Everyone was also curious, their faces full of expectation. Xunlian was slightly moved, his eyes flashing with surprise and joy. Seeing this, and Yun Han's heart surged, his eyebrows raised, and he hurriedly explained, Gu is the essence of heaven and earth, it has a magical power, and Gu Master is the person who refines and controls the Gu. The person who controls the Gu controls everything about the Gu, including the magical power of the Gu. Well, simply put, it is like training a horse. No matter how fierce the horse is, as long as you tame it, the horse will be yours to ride for life. Hua Meifei gave an "oh," her eyes shooting out a "you are very powerful" light, which made an Yun Han beaming with joy. Seeing this, the other people's thoughts became lively, their eyes burning with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Without needing Xunlian's deliberate guidance, the topic was changed to where the psychokinesis Gu came from. And Yun Han was proud, his whole body was floating, and he sighed, "Sigh, you have been in Ronghua City for so long, but you don't know the biggest secret of Ronghua City. How did Wan San become the richest man in the north, and what method did he rely on?" Don't keep us in suspense. I'm dying of anxiety. Hurry up and say it. And Yun Han had obviously stirred everyone up. And Yun Han still wanted to put on airs, but he couldn't stand the urging of everyone, so he quickly said, Ronghua City is an important place connecting the north and the south, and also the hub for the exchange of goods between the north and the central plains. What is the most profitable thing to buy and sell? It is Gu. There is no doubt about this. Take my psychokinesis Gu for example, it cost me 85,000 taels to buy it, and this is only a low-grade white-level Gu. Think about it, how big is this business, and how profitable it is? You don't know, the craziest place in Ronghua City is not the painting boat in Autumn Moon Lake, but the Gu Garden run by Wan San. A place to raise, evolve, buy and sell Gu. Gu Garden is the largest Gu market in the north, where thousands of Gu gather. In the northern lands, aristocratic families, sects, and other influential forces, as well as independent businesses, and even those in the central plains would come to the Gu Garden to conduct transactions. It wasn't over yet. Where there are Gu masters. Where there are Gu masters, there are Jiang Hu. There is also a Gu battle convention in the Gu Garden. It is extremely lively. Gu masters fight and kill each other in the arena. All kinds of strange Gu emerge one after another, dazzling the eyes. Even if it is the same type of Gu, in the hands of different Gu masters, there are countless variations in their usage. It is truly amazing. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. The listeners were tempted. Seeing once was better than hearing 100 times. No matter how well he said it, it was better to go and broaden their horizons. And Yun Han, however, had a difficult expression as he stammered, "It's not that I can't bring you there, but the Gu Garden has a rule. Those who enter the Gu Garden must prove that they have sufficient wealth. The bottom line is 50,000 taels, that is to say, those who did not have 50,000 taels were not qualified to enter the Gu Garden." As soon as these words were spoken, the 2 men and 1 woman at the same table looked at each other. The corners of their mouths twitched slightly, and their faces faintly turned somewhat ugly. The fiery atmosphere instantly cooled down, and the scene became extremely awkward. At this time, Xunlian gently closed his paper fan and asked with a smile, "Brother Yun Han, is it that as long as you have 50,000 taels, you can enter the Gu Garden? Is there a compulsory spending rule? Like how much money you have to spend before you can enter the Gu Garden?" And Yun Han shook his head. "There is no such rule. That's simple. Shun happened to have some extra money on him. It is enough for everyone to enter the Gu Garden. Are you all willing to go and broaden your horizons?" Xunlian's gaze was gentle as he looked at the 3 people who lacked money, seemingly seeking their consent. The 3 people looked at each other, and hurriedly cupped their hands in thank. The others, however, were slightly shocked, and could not help but stare deeply at Xunlian. This rich and imposing person spoke extraordinarily. He seemed to have a great background, and seemed to have a greater background than them. For a moment, they all had the intention to get closer to him. Soon after, everyone sat in the same car and drove towards the bustling downtown area, finally stopping in front of a house. Xinlian got off the car and raised his head to look at the house in front of him. It was ordinary, with green tiles and gray walls. There was nothing eye-catching about it. "No way, this is the Gu Garden?" Everyone was equally astonished. This place did not look like it. Not only was it small, but it was also very dilapidated. And Yun Han smiled mysteriously. "Everyone, please be patient. Please follow me." He took the lead and walked towards the door, directly pushing it open and walking in. He walked through a walkway with ease and entered the inner courtyard. 7 to 8 houses appeared in front of him, side by side. The doors of these houses were somewhat special. They were all installed with cat doors, as if many cats were kept here as pets. And Yun Han took out a waist tag, raised it, and shook it 3 times. At this moment, a meow came from a big tree not far away, and an orange cat climbed down from the tree. Xunlian raised his head to look at the tree, and immediately raised his eyebrows. He saw many small wooden houses on the tree, and many cats were lying on them. There were white cats, black cats, big tabby cats, and many different breeds. They all had lazy and serene expressions, either sleeping peacefully or wagging their tails, or playing in groups of 2 or 3. "So many cats, they're so cute." Hua Meifei was pleasantly surprised. This person loved cats as much as his life. He had 3 precious cats at home, and he would stroke any cat he saw. Cute, stupid, and cute cats were all natural healers. And Yun Han smiled mysteriously and said, "Something more interesting will happen later." Hua Meifei looked over and saw the orange cat walk gracefully to Yun Han, his posture proud. And Yun Han immediately bent down, held up the waist tag with both hands, and handed it over. The orange cat held the waist tag in his mouth, still gracefully walked to the 3rd house on the left, and went in through the cat door. Everyone looked at this scene curiously, deeply impressed. They had never seen an orange cat with such personality. After a while, the door of the 3rd house suddenly opened, and at the same time, a meow came from the door, as if calling everyone in. "Let's go." And Yun Han looked at Hua Meifei and smiled, then took the lead and walked into the house. Everyone followed suit. After entering, they glanced around and saw a beautiful and quiet woman in her 30s. She had a great figure and was holding the orange cat in her arms, standing in the empty room. The light in the room was dim, and only the place where the sun shone was bright was a little dark. The woman smiled sweetly and gently stroked the orange cat's back. The orange cat moaned comfortably, lying on her towering breasts and acting cute. It made people's noses bleed and they couldn't help but want to shout, "Beauty, let go of the animal. If you have any problems, come at me." "Hello, big sister Meow." And Yun Han's expression became serious, and he saluted with his hands folded in front of his chest. Sister Cat looked straight ahead and chuckled. "Everyone, are the rules clear?" And Yun Han nodded and immediately turned to look at Xunlian. Xunlian understood tacitly and opened his hand, revealing a banknote with a denomination of 500,000 yuan. "Yes." Sister Cat smiled and moved aside. Only now did everyone notice that there was a big hole in the ground behind Sister Cat, and they could see the stairs leading down. Hua Meifei immediately exclaimed, "Ah, so the Gu Garden is underground?" And Yun Han nodded. "This is only one of the entrances to the Gu Garden. Sister Cat is the gatekeeper here." Xunlian's gaze flashed at the orange cat, and he asked, "Sister Cat is also a Gu master, right?" Sister Cat nodded with a smile. "Yes, my Gu is called Cat Enslavement Gu, also known as Cat Slave Gu. It is a beast enslavement Gu, and can be used to control feline animals." Xunlian suddenly glanced at the corner and asked with deep meaning, "All cats?" Sister Cat chuckled and waved at the corner. After a moment, 2 huge figures suddenly jumped out from the darkness. They were a mighty and majestic lion and a domineering spotted tiger. Roar! Roar! The lion roared and the tiger roared. The smell of blood hit their faces, and the sound shook the mountains and rivers. Hua Meifei and the other girls had never encountered such a scene. They were so scared that they shivered and hid behind in panic. The boys' faces were also pale, and their legs were weak. They almost peed in their pants. A timid young master directly fell to the ground and scrambled to escape through the door. Chapter 43. Everyone, don't panic! Don't panic! And Yunhan was startled. He was not frightened by the lions and tigers, but by the sudden chaos. It was a complete mess. Everyone, listen to me. The lions and tigers are under Sister Meow's control. They won't hurt anyone. And Yunhan was speechless. He looked at Sister Meow and said anxiously, Sister Meow, don't scare them. Meow. Sister Meow covered her mouth and chuckled, waving her hand. Immediately, the lions and tigers lowered their heads obediently and went back to the corner to lie down. They ignored the humans and licked the fur on their bodies. Even so, everyone's scalps were still numb with lingering fear. Especially the young master who had fled out of the door. He was cowering and his crotch seemed to be strangely wet. He didn't dare to come back. Xunlian found it funny. In front of mere beasts these people were so weak. The funny thing was that they thought they were noble. Humans could only find a sense of superiority in front of other humans. Only when they stood under the vast starry sky would they occasionally remember how small they were. Xunlian faced the two beasts calmly and motionlessly. Losing humanity means losing a lot. Losing beasts means losing everything. At this moment, Xunlian deeply understood the profound meaning of this sentence. Even if you were extremely wealthy, you wouldn't feel powerful because of it, and you wouldn't gain true respect. Only when you were fearless in the face of true power would you know that you were more powerful. Others would know that you were so powerful. That was the true source of awe. And Yunhan's face was apologetic. He wiped his sweat and said, It's all my fault. I should have told everyone in advance. You should have told us in advance. That was so scary. Hua Meifei patted her proud chest and looked scared. There was some resentment in her eyes. Yes, 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 and Yunhan was very embarrassed. He sighed in despair. At this time, Hua Meifei suddenly turned to Xunlian. She blinked and said with admiration, Brother Xun, aren't you afraid of lions and tigers? Just now, Xunlian stood in the same place, motionless, with a playful expression, giving people a domineering image of a daring master. Xunlian laughed and said self-deprecatingly, Of course I'm afraid. In fact, I was so scared that I couldn't move. Hearing what he said, the young masters who had almost peed their pants felt a little better. They felt that they had saved some face. Hua Meipei raised an eyebrow, her expression saying, Who would believe you? She was about to say something when in Yunhan's gazes on Xunlian's face. She hurriedly changed the topic and said, It's late, let's go. Xunlian immediately. Everyone entered in a single file. After entering the hole in the ground, they walked down a flight of stairs. The passage became straight and was illuminated by the light of a fire. After walking for about 50 meters, they suddenly heard a commotion ahead. It was a hubbub of voices. What came into view was a huge natural underground cave. The space was extremely spacious. This place was built into a garden. There was a 3-story turret in the center. Several areas around the turret were planted with lush plants. Pedestrians were weaving and heads were moving. It was like a market during a festival. It was bustling. The most amazing thing was that this place was clearly underground, but the light was as bright as day. Xunlian looked up and his pupils constricted. Near the dome, there was a sun. It was a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 30 meters. It continued to emit light and heat. Suddenly, in the center of the fireball, a black shadow flashed past. It looked like a crow with 3 legs. Its whole body seemed to be made of black gold, and it flashed with golden light. Brother Yunhan, what's that? Shenlian pointed at the big fireball above his head and held his breath. And Yunhan raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. That fireball is also a gu. It's called the Golden Crow Gu. Legend has it that in the distant ancient era, 10 Golden Crow Gu were born in the sky. They were the embodiment of flames. The high temperature they emitted roasted the earth, causing the living beings of the earth to suffer a fate worse than death. After countless years, someone finally evolved the shooting sun gu, which could deal with the Golden Crow Gu. Only then did they successively shoot down 9 Golden Crow Gu and save the world. What you see is only a tail feather left behind by one of the Golden Crow Gu. The flame is eternal, like a small sun, illuminating the entire Gu garden. There is only day and no night. Shenlian blinked. You mean the sun in the sky is actually a gu, the Golden Crow Gu? Yes. And Yunhan nodded. He thought for a while and said, Anyway, that's what others told me. Shenlian suddenly had a thought. If that Gu master refines the Golden Crow Gu, wouldn't he possess the entire sun? With a thought, he could destroy the entire world. And Yunhan was dazed. She actually could not deny this point. Theoretically, it should be so. But, who can refine the sun? I'm afraid they would be roasted to ashes before even getting close to the Golden Crow Gu. Hua Meifei was overjoyed. She waved her delicate fists and said, Stop chatting, quickly bring us to see what a gu looks like. And Yunhan became excited. Follow me to the Gu Tower. The Gu Tower was the 3-story turret at the center. And Yunhan was familiar with the place. She found a shortcut and quickly arrived at the turret after passing through the crowd. Everyone could not wait any longer and swarmed in. In the hall of the first floor, people were coming and going. What was surprising was that they were all customers, there was not a single waiter. Suddenly, everyone discovered an incomparably strange thing. There were books floating in the hall. These books were like bubbles rising and falling in the air, floating here and there. Those customers would occasionally grab a book and ask something. The book would flicker with light and some information would appear on the paper. After the customers read it carefully, they would come to a realization and leave with satisfaction. And Yunhan said, These books are all gu. They are called bookworm, also known as human Facebook. They are wisdom-type gu and can remember any recorded knowledge. Moreover, when you ask them a question, they will organize this knowledge and provide you with the most complete and comprehensive answers. Wow, so mystical! Everyone gasped in amazement. They were deeply attracted by the wondrous scene in front of them and felt like they were in a dream. What a bookworm! This is the true world of Gu masters. Shenlian clicked his tongue in amazement. Suddenly, he raised his hand and grabbed a book that was floating over. Looking at it, there was a rigid human face on the cover of the book. Its mouth moved and spoke in human language. Esteemed customer, hello. I am Human Facebook, I know everything about Gu. May I ask which Gu you want to know? Shenlian thought for a while and said, Psychokinesis Gu. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The book flipped to a certain page and numerous words and images appeared. Human Facebook said, Psychokinesis Gu, soul-type Gu. It uses mental strength as food and its special effect is to allow people to use their thoughts to control objects remotely. This Gu's evolution difficulty is relatively high. The more mature evolution method is for the Gu master to deliberately split his personality and form schizophrenia. Then, the psychokinesis Gu will devour the split personality. The success rate of evolution is about 40%. Special reminder, this evolution method is very dangerous. If you are not careful, it may cause you to go crazy. You must use it with caution. Hearing this, Shenlian could not help but glance at Yunhan, thinking, Gu will find the most suitable Gu master for itself. This Yunhan has an extremely low self-esteem and is arrogant and conceited. He indeed has the potential for schizophrenia. This might be the reason why the psychokinesis Gu was willing to be refined by him. You may know a person for a long time without understanding their true nature. Esteemed customer, are you satisfied with my answer? Very satisfied. Is there anything else you want to know? Shunlian pondered. He really wanted to ask about the origin of human Facebook's life-changing goo. However, when he looked around the hall on the first floor, everyone was asking questions about human Facebook. This scene made his heart skip a beat. Isn't this just like Lady Baidu in my previous life? Will human Facebook record the things I ask? Can other people find out what I am concerned about in some way? In the era of big data, some people can understand what most people are concerned about by grasping a huge amount of data and professionally processing this meaningful data. They can even figure out a person's preferences. Businesses can use this to carry out precise marketing, police can use this to predict crimes, and even interfere with presidential elections. Thinking of this, Shen Lian's gaze gradually turned cold. Chapter 44. After Shen Lian made up his mind, he squinted his eyes and changed the topic, asking, "How many goo can a goo master possess at most?" Human Facebook. There is no limit to the number of goo a goo master can possess. Isn't this nonsense? Shen Lian thought about it and felt his question was wrong, so he changed his way of asking. How many apertures can a goo master open in his body? Human Facebook. In theory, as long as a goo master can obtain enough primeval energy, the goo master's body will not be emptied, and the number of apertures is also unlimited. However, according to the experience of countless goo masters, it is not better to open more apertures. After all, a goo master's energy is limited, his lifespan is also limited, and the amount of primeval energy he can obtain is even more limited. If there are too many apertures, the amount of primeval energy required would be too much, and if he is not careful, the goo master would be squeezed dry and die. From this perspective, a goo master should pay extra attention to choosing his main ascension goo and secondary ascension goo. Main ascension goo and secondary ascension goo, what does that mean? This was the first time Shen Lian heard of such a thing, and could not help but be curious. After a goo master chooses a goo, he will put most of his energy and wealth into evolving this goo, and this goo is also the goo master's main strength, and determines the goo master's rank. A goo at this rank is the goo master's main ascension goo. The goo that partners with the main ascension goo are secondary ascension goo, and are usually lodging type, living in the aperture opened by the main ascension goo, such as support type goo and strengthening type goo. Secondary ascension goo's existence is to complement the main ascension goo, allowing the goo master to better display the main ascension goo's strength. Just like what was mentioned earlier, a goo master's energy, wealth and primeval energy are limited, and it is impossible to have an unlimited number of main ascension goo. According to incomplete statistics, a goo master usually has less than 10 main ascension goo, and most goo masters only have 2 to 5 main ascension goo. So it was like this, Shen Lian immediately realized after hearing this. He had already figured out many things himself, and after verifying them, they were indeed correct. According to the definition of main ascension goo and secondary ascension goo, his Grandmaster goo and Iron Jade goo should be main ascension goo, while Milk Cow goo was undoubtedly secondary ascension goo, while Life Playing goo and Heart Eating goo were different. I've learned something new. Shen Lian laughed and immediately asked seriously, is there a situation where a goo master's main goo advancement goo is bronze rank 8, but the goo master can only reach bronze rank 7 with sufficient primeval energy? Human Facebook. Yes. This kind of situation was actually very common. It was called insufficient talent. Goo could evolve infinitely, but a goo master's talent was limited. Although a goo master's body would subtly improve through the process of raising goo, refining goo, and using goo, even evolving to the point of transcendence, the extent of this evolution was very limited and could not keep up with the pace of goo's evolution. In other words, their innate talent was lacking. In such a situation, Goo masters have to find other ways to improve their talent and advance further. Xin Lian was shocked. So the problem lies with me. The miraculous dew that I drank at Deer Mountain has the miraculous effect of increasing one's talent. With his doubts cleared, Xin Lian took a deep breath and asked, "Is there any way to improve a Goo master's talent?" Swoosh, 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 human Facebook's pages quickly flipped. Xin Lian took a look. The pages were filled with pictures and text, introducing several strange innate Goo. Human Facebook. A Goo master's talent naturally relies on Goo to resolve it. For example, these innate Goo below can effectively raise a Goo master's talent. Let me introduce them to you one by one. Human Flower Goo, 3 Flower Goo, Consumable Type Goo, Special Effect, raises talent. Consuming 1 Human Flower Goo can raise a Goo master's talent by 1 level. Earth Flower Goo, 3 Flower Goo, Consumable Type Goo, Special Effect, raises talent. Consuming 1 Earth Flower Goo can raise a Goo master's talent by 3 levels. Sky Flower Goo, 3 Flower Goo, Consumable Type Goo, Special Effect, raises talent. Consumable. Other than that, there are 5 Chi Origin Goo, Green Cloud Soaring Goo, Born as a King Goo, Buddhist Relic Goo, Nature Flower Fairy, and so on. Xin Lian looked at these Goo one by one, and his gaze suddenly stopped at Flower Fairy. Flower Fairy, Wisdom Type Goo, 100 Flowers and Plants Type Goo, born during the blooming of flowers in spring, plucking the morning dew, the essence of 100 flowers, and brewing the 100 flower dew. 100 flower dew was a necessary ingredient to brew fine wine. It was priceless and could also raise a Goo master's talent by 1 level. Those who were not fated could not obtain it. Flower Fairy, 100 flower dew. Xin Lian was speechless. Only now did he realize how precious the mystical dew he drank was. It could only be found by chance and not sought. So that white-clothed girl was the Flower Fairy, an illusion created by a Goo. Xin Lian felt he was very lucky, coincidentally meeting the Flower Fairy at Deer Cry Mountain, during the blooming season, and drinking the 100 flower dew that others yearned for even in their dreams. Sigh, I am now bronze rank 8. To advance to silver rank, I need to raise my talent by 2 levels. Apart from being lucky, Xin Lian's mood gradually became heavy. He had already encountered a bottleneck at bronze rank. The road to silver rank would be filled with thorns. It would be even more difficult. Forget it, let's not worry about it for now. I will advance to silver rank first. Xin Lian's mind calmed down, throwing away these uncertain worries. Human Facebook, where can I buy a talent Goo? How much is it? Esteemed customer, I am very sorry. Talent Goo is an extremely rare Goo. The demand cannot meet the demand. It is currently out of stock in the market. Human Facebook suddenly said something that made one speechless. Not even in the Goo Garden. No, but there is a way to obtain a talent Goo. New Coin often puts out bounty missions. People who complete the missions will obtain New Coin's mission points, and after reaching a certain amount, they can exchange for a talent Goo from New Coin. New Coin, the #1 gang in the north, their backer is Family Lin. This information flashed in Xin Lian's mind. What talent Goo does New Coin have? It is called the Unparalleled Genius Goo. Xin Lian stood on the spot, his thoughts churning. Brother Xin, have you chosen which Goo you want to buy? At this time, Hua Meifei came over. She was the niece of Ronghua City's garrison commander. Her family did not lack money, and her face was full of excitement. I have already decided. I want to buy a rainbow dress Goo. This Goo can change the style and color of clothes at will. With it, I can change into a new set of clothes anytime and anywhere. Xin Lian was speechless. Since we came to the Goo Garden, let's walk around and take a look. Soon after, Xin Lian went to buy Goo with them. After using Bookworm to check the Goo we want, we will go to the Goo house outside to choose. And Yun Han was proud, bringing everyone out of the 3-story turret to the surrounding area. A moment later, they entered a Goo house. There was a pile of charcoal here. The fire was burning vigorously. The whole room was very hot, and the people who entered were soon drenched in sweat. Young masters and young ladies, welcome, welcome. May I ask if you want to buy a fire-breathing goo? A middle-aged man smiled as he welcomed them, speaking passionately. Yes, it is that goo that can make people spit out fire from their mouth. A young master beside Yun Han said excitedly. Everyone, please take a look. The middle-aged man did not speak nonsense. Facing a pile of firewood, he took a deep breath, puffed up his cheeks, and suddenly spat out. Whoosh! A pillar of fire fiercely spewed out, instantly igniting the pile of firewood, burning it with crackling sounds. The world was immediately filled with exclamations. The middle-aged man laughed heartily. This is the fire-breathing goo, a white-rank fire-breathing goo for only 30,000 taels. Who wants to buy it? I will buy it. That young master was already impatient. He straightforwardly took out the money and handed it over. Please wait for a moment. The middle-aged man smiled as he received the banknotes. He turned around and walked towards a pile of charcoal, then directly put his hand into the fire and searched for a while, taking out a red crystal-like goo and handing it to that young master. Chapter 45. Okay. That young master excitedly received the fire-breathing goo. His careful appearance was like a father carrying a crying baby from a midwife, his expression full of anticipation. Seeing this scene, Shen Lian's heart slightly moved. He couldn't help but recall the first time he came into contact with the goo. His emotions were also surging. However, after comparing, the two situations were completely different. When I walked on the path of a goo master, the goo I obtained was purely by chance. What goo I obtained was completely based on luck. And he only made his choice after reading the various types of goo in the human Facebook and making comparisons and considerations. If I had the same opportunity at that time, which goo would I choose as my main advancement goo? Shen Lian re-examined his own path as a goo master, and couldn't help but think deeply. There are so many different types of goo in the world, which one is the most suitable for me? The most amazing goo I have is the Life Twister goo. The most ideal main advancement goo is naturally the type that complements the Life Twister goo. However, whether it is the Grandmaster goo, Iron Jade goo or Milk Cow goo, they are not very compatible with the Life Twister goo. With bewitchment points, these three goo can evolve, but after evolving, they cannot bring more bewitchment points. This kind of one-way relationship is not egg-laying. From an economic point of view, the capital owner uses a portion of the profits earned from workers for personal consumption, while the other portion is converted into capital to buy additional capital and labor needed to expand the scale of production. This is the accumulation of capital. From the perspective of an enterprise's production process, capital accumulation is the source of the enterprise's expansion of production, while profits are the source of capital accumulation. The scale of capital accumulation is directly proportional to the enterprise's profit. The more profits the enterprise obtains, the larger the scale of capital accumulation. And the larger the scale of capital accumulation, the more profits the enterprise can obtain, thus expanding the scale of production and earning more profit. Capital accumulation is the inevitable trend of production development. That is to say, the main advancement goo that partners with the Life Twister goo should be the type that can produce capital accumulation, that is, a goo with more bewitchment points. Thinking of this, Shen Lian's eyes flickered, his heart faintly burning with passion. Does this type of goo exist? Brother Shen, let's go. When everyone left this goo house, Hua Meifei saw Shen Lian standing there in a daze. She waved her hand. Oh, okay. Shen Lian came back to his senses and followed him with a smile. Next, they went to another goo house. Hua Meifei was very excited, cheering as she entered the goo house. I want to buy the rainbow skirt goo. Welcome, welcome. Immediately, a young woman greeted him with a warm smile. This woman had a beautiful appearance. When she smiled, her eyes curved like crescent moons. What was incomparably strange was that she was wearing a rainbow-colored floor-length dress that fluttered without wind. It was dazzling and eye-catching. As soon as Hua Meifei saw the rainbow-colored dress on her body, her eyes widened in an instant. She exclaimed, "So beautiful!" At this moment there were many customers in this gu house, most of them were women or couples. The atmosphere was quite lively as they were all choosing the Nikhang gu. Female gu masters are also the main consumers in the market. Shunlian looked and immediately cursed. At this time, the woman in the rainbow-colored dress brought the Nikhang gu for Hua Meifei. It was like a lump of cloud, its color was like glass, constantly changing and extremely beautiful. Shunlian's gaze focused, a strange light reflected from the bottom of his eyes as he inwardly thought, "Blue cloud close, white Nikhang, raise an arrow to shoot the heavenly wolf." Nikhang, these two words signify the clothes of immortals. According to legends, immortals use clouds as clothing, riding on clouds and mist, coming and going like the wind. This Nikhang gu is not as simple as I thought. Sure enough, the woman in the rainbow-colored dress smiled as she introduced, "Nikhang gu, like clouds and mist, constantly changing. Other than being able to change into different styles and colors of clothing, it actually has many other uses. Next, let me show you a few of them." Everyone quickly retreated and opened up a space. The woman lifted her rainbow-colored dress and started to dance. Her body was light and graceful, like a peerless Qin Gong master. Her toes lightly touched the ground, and she jumped more than 2 meters high. She spun 5 or 6 times in the air before slowly landing. The woman's movements suddenly sped up, as fast as lightning, drifting erratically. Sometimes, she would suddenly disappear from everyone's sight, and after a while, she would suddenly appear in another place, like a ghost, causing everyone to gasp in amazement. Finally, the woman stood on the spot, and a lump of cloud condensed under her feet, slowly lifting her up into the air. She hovered in the air over 10 meters high before lightly landing on the ground. "Good!" The whole gu house immediately burst into thunderous applause. The woman wiped away her sweat and laughed loudly, saying, "As everyone can see, the Nikhang gu has unparalleled uses. It can make one as light as a swallow, it also has camouflage effects, allowing one to become invisible, and the most amazing part is that it can allow one to ride on clouds and mist, flying above the ground. I'll buy it." Just as she finished speaking, the impatient Hua Meifei rushed up and directly threw money at her. A moment later, they left the Nikhang gu house and went to the next place. Among this group of young masters and ladies, only 3 people had enough money to buy a gu. The last person who wanted to buy a gu was called Jiang Huaihua, and the gu he wanted to buy was called man fruit. Jiang Huaihua, what gu is man fruit? The female companions felt the name was strange, and were very curious. Shunlian also did not know what this gu was, and could not help but look at Bai Ling. The latter blushed and shook her head without saying a word. Jiang Huaihua chuckled and laughed a little wretchedly, saying, "You will know in a while." Entering the gu house, an old man with white hair and beard came up to them and laughed. "Welcome, ladies and young masters. Which young master wants to buy a gu?" Hua Meifei asked back. How did you know it was the young master who wanted to buy and not the young lady?" The old man laughed for a while and stroked his beard, saying, "Young lady, you might not know, but the gu I am selling is called man fruit, and there is also another name called strong root gu, a body fusion type gu. Its greatest effect is to strengthen the kidney function, increase endurance and recovery ability, allowing men to last longer and show their masculinity and passion. Especially for those impotent and premature ejaculation wolf lords, this gu is a lifesaver for them to regain their self-confidence and happiness." Hua Meifei and the other girls were all red from holding back their laughter, stomping their feet in anger and embarrassment, and left the gu house like they were running away. "Old man, you are amazing!" Jiang Huaihua chuckled and gave a thumbs up, exchanging a smile with the old man, as if regretting not having met earlier. Shunlian was speechless, but suddenly, he thought of something and cupped his hands, asking seriously, "Old sir, what are the benefits and drawbacks of a body fusion type gu to a gu master's body?" The old man pondered for a while and smiled. Body fusion type goo will not open an aperture in the goo master's body, but will directly fuse with a certain part of the goo master's body, giving this part a strange ability and gradually transforming the whole body, continuously increasing strength, explosiveness, endurance, speed, and so on. Body fusion type goo will not refine primeval energy. It is closely related to the goo master's body, strengthening the blood, bones, organs, and other body structures. In this sense, the goo master's body will gradually strengthen, becoming stronger and stronger, becoming more majestic and sturdy, thus reducing the goo master's dependence on primeval essence, especially when the goo master exhausts his primeval essence in battle, and can only rely on close combat. The presence or absence of a body fusion type goo will be the deciding factor of victory or defeat. Thus, the biggest flaw of a body fusion type goo is that it is extremely difficult to evolve after fusing with the body, and can only evolve as the goo master's body evolves. It can be said that the body fusion type goo is the same as the goo master, heavily relying on innate goo. Normally speaking, very few people choose the body fusion type goo as their main advancement goo, but it is an all-purpose secondary goo, and can be used with any main goo. After all, which goo master doesn't want their body to become stronger? Shen Lian squinted his eyes. Old sir, you mean, goo masters who have body fusion type goo need large amounts of innate goo to advance further, right? The old man's heart shook, and he couldn't help but take a deep look at Shen Lian, his smile vanishing as he became extremely cautious. He had said so much just now, but it was actually to intentionally obscure this point, making it sound plausible but actually wrong, to confuse people, making them only hear the benefits and buy goo on impulse, while ignoring the crucial flaw. But he had never expected that Shen Lian's thoughts were so meticulous, and he immediately heard the trick. The old man's expression turned solemn, saying, "It is indeed so. For example, a man-flower goo can raise a goo master's innate talent by one level, but to those goo masters who have body fusion type goo, they might need 2 or even 3 man-flower goo to raise their innate talent by one level. However, the body fusion type goo also allows the goo master to obtain incomparably huge benefits. In the past, there was once a goo master who chose the body fusion type goo as his main advancement goo, and continuously evolved it, finally evolving his body into an indestructible diamond, with boundless strength, being able to topple mountains and overturn seas, tyrannical beyond compare. The old man looked deeply at Shen Lian, making a solemn vow, with a serious expression of, if this old man lied to you, he would be struck by lightning. Shen Lian thought for a moment and asked, "Body fusion type goo have all kinds of forms, with all kinds of uses, which goo can strengthen a goo master's body in all aspects?" Logically speaking, almost all body fusion type goo can strengthen a goo master's body in all aspects, like my strong root goo, nourishes the kidneys and strengthens the yang, nourishes the yin and strengthens the essence. After nourishing the kidneys, the other parts of the body will naturally benefit, right? Of course, there are some body fusion type goo that do not work, like the savor goo, one of the 5 senses type goo. It can only strengthen a person's sense of taste, allowing them to taste the most delicate flavors, and is suitable for chef. According to the effects, I recommend the dragon heart goo, followed by the tiger guts goo, whale breath goo, withering glory goo, and strong root goo. These 5 goo are a set. With them gathered, even a white rank goo master would be as strong as a dragon or elephant, with boundless strength, and could even surpass levels to defeat a bronze rank goo master. Chapter 46. The reason why he asked this was to prepare for a rainy day. If he could not obtain the innate talent goo, his goo master path would be stagnant for a long time. Then he would have to find other ways to raise his strength, especially his battle strength. The body fusion type goo strengthened the body and nurtured strength. It did not open the aperture and purify the primeval energy. There was no need to worry about the body being emptied. It was the best choice. However, it was a pity that the body fusion type Gu's advantages were outstanding, but its disadvantages were equally frightening. Shen Lian had to be cautious. Although Grandmaster Gu has extreme strengthening effect and can strengthen my body, this strengthening effect cannot last indefinitely. It is also restricted by my innate talent. The worst thing was, Grandmaster Gu's extreme strengthening effect was almost negligible now. Shen Lian had no room to grow or improve. Shen Lian was troubled as to how he should proceed in the future. No hurry, I should first inquire about the way to obtain the innate talent Gu before making any plans. Shen Lian thought for a while and decided to obtain the innate talent Gu first. He asked the old man about the innate talent Gu. In the end, the old man's answer was similar to human Facebook. There were too many monks and too little meat. The innate talent Gu was basically not circulated in the market. This thing was rare and precious. It was like the peaches and meat in Journey to the West. Not anyone could obtain it, not even if they had money. The old man sighed deeply. Innate talent Gu is a necessity with huge expenditure. The demand for it is intense. This is a common situation. In fact, Gu masters had long since discovered that the greatest obstacle to a Gu master's progress was their own innate talent. Thus their ancestors placed great importance on innate talent Gu. And the birth of a certain Gu must have a corresponding environment. This rule also applies to innate talent Gu. Thus, the production areas of innate talent Gu are often occupied and controlled by strong forces, like clans and sections. If you want to obtain the innate talent Gu, you have to rely on luck. It can only be found by chance. The more reliable method is to work for these strong forces. So it was like this. Shen Lian finally understood the inside story. His thoughts quickly turned and he asked, I heard Nu Kuan has the innate talent Gu. How can a gang control a resource like innate talent Gu? The old man laughed and shook his head. Nu Kuan does not have an innate talent Gu, but the clan behind Nu Kuan does. Shen Lian understood and asked where Nu Kuan would post the bounty. After that, he parted ways with Hua Meifei and Yunhan and the others. He took Bai Ling to another area. This seemed to be a leisure area with tea and alcohol. At first glance, it looked like an open bar. The central area was hollowed out with a book floating in it. Many Gu masters were gathered here, sitting in groups of 2s and 3s, men and women, conversing with each other. Some were also standing in front of the human Facebook, quietly looking at the pictures on the pages. Shen Lian walked to the human Facebook and glanced at it. The words on the page read Frowny Face Song Manor, Monster wreaks havoc. Mission points, 300. Wei Shui Town, Unknown Demon Disaster, mission points 500, adjusted according to the actual situation. Sangshui River, Mang Demons Wreak Havoc, mission points 800. The messages were extremely brief, but they came one after another. The quest locations were practically all over the Northlands. There are actually so many demons in the Northlands. Shen Lian felt his scalp go numb as his expression turned grave. He looked from start to finish and did not see Snow Ridge City's name. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. At this time, he heard a conversation with a sad and desolate tone. I did not expect Brother Wang to also be in trouble. He is a silver rank 2 Gu master, but he was actually not that tiger demon's match. Brother Wang only needed 600 mission points to exchange for an unparalleled genius Gu. He purposely chose a medium difficulty mission, but still, hearing this, Shen Lian carefully observed the people around him. He found that many Gu masters were missing arms and legs, but their bodies were crippled but their minds were firm. Every time they mentioned demons, their expressions were filled with unconcealable fear and dread. This made Shen Lian's heart tremble. Without thinking, he turned around and left. Soon, he returned to the old man's Gu house. Strong root Gu, white rank 50,000 taels. The old man laughed and happily received the banknote. He then passed a Gu that looked like a small Gu to Shen Lian. Dragon Heart Gu, Tiger Guts Gu, Whale Breath Gu, Withering Glory Gu Where are they for sale? Shen Lian suddenly asked after receiving the strong root goo. The old man was stunned. His eyes flashed and his beard trembled. He said in astonishment, "You really want to collect a set?" Shen Lian nodded. The old man's breathing paused. Shock, doubt, and indescribable expressions appeared on his face. After a moment of silence, he laughed. "What a coincidence, I have a dragon heart goo. There is only one of it and it is very precious. As for the other 3 goo, the goo garden does not have any stock. I can only reserve them first. The shortest is a month, the longest is half a year." Shen Lian squinted his eyes. "How much is your dragon heart goo?" "Dragon heart goo is not a strong root goo, the price is very high." "You, more expensive than 1,000,000? Shen Lian was calm and composed, showing a rich and overbearing appearance. Seeing this, the old man hesitated for a while before saying, "Let me make it clear to you first. The goo will choose the most suitable goo master. I can sell you the dragon heart goo, but this does not mean you will be able to refine it. If you do not refine this dragon heart goo within 3 months, you have to return it to me and not sell it to anyone else. You also have to write a contract as proof. Are you willing?" Shen Lian's heart flashed and he grinned. "If I return it to you, will it still be the same price?" The old man laughed. "Don't feel like you are losing out. Let me finish speaking. The dragon heart goo is the strongest body fusion type goo. It is rare and precious and its price has always been very high. Selling it to you for 1,000,000 is already considered cheap. But if you are willing to write a contract with me, I will sell it to you for 800,000 and take it back for 300,000. How about it?" Shen Lian laughed involuntarily. "Good old man. So you were betting that I would not be able to refine your dragon heart goo. Trying to gain something without risking anything, earning 500,000 in 3 months. The old man stroked his beard and laughed wildly. A goo master's life is a huge gamble. If you win the gamble, you are the winner in life. If you lose, you will lose everything. You and I are the same. Let's see if you have the guts to bet with me." Trying to provoke me? Shen Lian concluded that this old man's dragon heart goo definitely had a problem. He said in a deep voice, "Cut the crap, take out the dragon heart goo and let me take a look." The old man was straightforward and quickly took out a goo. Its appearance resembled a crouching dragon, coiled into the shape of a heart. It looked like a dragon but also like a heart. When he touched it, Shen Lian felt a pulsating life force. His eyes shone brightly as he thought, "It's good that it is alive." Shen Lian pretended to be hesitant and hesitated for a long time. He tried to bargain with the old man over and over again, but the old man refused to budge. The two fought for nearly half an hour before Shen Lian lost and signed the agreement. He bought it. It was written in black and white. The old man was overjoyed and laughed heartily. "Young man, I wish you the dragon heart goo in your chest and soar to the sky." Shen Lian angrily said, "Old man, just you wait. When I refine the dragon heart goo, you will cry yourself to death." He turned around and left. Watching Shen Lian leave, the old man looked at the agreement in his hand and suddenly burst into a sinister laughter. "Grandpa, you used that dragon heart goo to cheat people again." Unknowingly, a young girl appeared behind the old man and suddenly spoke, giving him a fright. "Shoo shoo shoo, this is business. Both parties are willing and it is written in black and white. How am I cheating people?" The old man's face turned red and he quickly turned his head away, saying arrogantly. The young girl had a look of disdain and speechlessly said, "Others may not know, but do you think I don't know your tricks? The dragon heart goo is very ancient and is basically in a dormant state. Not to mention 3 months, even 3 years or 30 years is not enough to refine it. If you are not cheating people, what is? How many people have been cheated by you?" Chapter 47. The passageways in and out of the goo garden extend in all directions. There is also a passageway to the west of the outer city. Please come this way. Shen Lian did not leave the goo garden using the original route, but after asking a waiter, under his guidance, he left through another shortcut and returned to the surface. This entrance was at the backyard of an inn, much closer to his house. After leaving, he could even rent a carriage, it was quite convenient. Shunlian remembered the name of the inn, rented a carriage, and returned home. In the carriage, Shunlian closed his eyes, as if he was thinking about something. After a long time, he opened his eyes, his gaze deep and bright, instructing. Bai Ling, I will be in closed-door cultivation for the next few days. Prepare more food. If there is not enough time, go to a restaurant and order it. Yes, young master. Bai Ling replied softly. After that, the two did not interact with each other and returned home. Shunlian went straight to his room, closing the door behind him. He opened his palm. He saw the dragon heart goo and strong root goo lying quietly in his palm. Begin. Shunlian pierced his fingertip with a silver needle, dripping his blood to feed the two goo. As the smell of fresh blood spread, the strong root goo that looked like little Gigi reacted quickly, squirming a few times, and suddenly became tall and straight, turning into Big Gigi. Very thick and mighty. Shunlian had a strange expression on his face. The big strong root goo drank the blood, and rolled around comfortably, immediately becoming thicker and longer, like a tiger's whip, mighty and domineering, laughing proudly at the heroes. Shunlian was completely speechless. The goo in this world are really all kinds of strange things. When the forest is big, there are really all kinds of birds. On the other side, the dragon heart goo did not move, as if it was in a deep sleep, not responding at all. After waiting for a while, sure enough, the strong root goo was also very stubborn. It was not so easy to refine. With an arrogant attitude, it naturally did not have any mental connection with him. Shunlian did not mind, instead looking forward to it. Life trickier goo, it is time for you to shine. At the next moment, the life-twisting goo's awesome appearance appeared. This time, the life-twisting goo seemed to be carrying some kind of anger, and appeared in front of the strong root goo in a very high-profile manner. As soon as the strong root goo saw the life-twister goo, its originally mighty and arrogant posture immediately changed. It suddenly shrunk, it shrunk violently. It was as if the fluffy sponge ball had been ruthlessly pinched, instantly shrinking to 1/10 of its original size. It immediately withered. This scene was extremely similar to a naughty child who had suddenly heard someone shouting that their homeroom teacher was here. Life-twisting goo placed its hands on its waist, looking valiant and spirited as it came to the front of strong root goo, domineering and unparalleled. Evidently, the life-twisting goo was not satisfied with the strong root goo's flaunting of its prowess, and came out to slap its face in anger. Life-twisting goo's domineering aura leaked out as it started to give the strong root goo a bloody lesson. Dao friend, do you think you're so cool? Streaking is shameful, please put away your wretchedness. What? You're asking me who I am? I'm the azure dragon on the left and the white tiger on the right. I'm the embodiment of both beauty and wisdom, the embodiment of a hero and chivalrous. My name is Boss. That's right. Everyone who sees me has to respectfully call me boss. Acting cool in front of me, your boss, the consequences are very serious. I, your boss, will make you cry rhythmically. What, you're not acting cool, you're cool, hee hee. Look at your cool appearance, your girlfriend is full of air, right? You dare to compare your size with me, little guy, you're quite flexible. What, don't talk to me about life, I will make you doubt your life. What, you want to wear clothes, hee hee, don't think you're not a beast after wearing clothes, you're a beast dressed in human clothing. What, you want to go home, you still miss your mother. After a while, the strong root goo was trembling uncontrollably, its domineering aura had completely vanished. It was trembling with fear and despair, its face showing that it had nothing left to live for. The ups and downs of life were too fast, it was too exciting, it was almost scared to the point of peeing. Suddenly, the strong root goo released a strong thought attack. Haha, success! Shunlian was ecstatic, the life-twisting goo was indeed awesome, it easily settled the strong root goo. The life-twisting goo was still brooding, It was very unhappy and did not let go of the strong root goo, using all kinds of methods to criticize and educate it. The strong root goo felt a great tragedy. It could not bear it and actually treated Shen Lian's body as a shelter, suddenly escaping in. Shen Lian was overjoyed. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, he suddenly thought of something and could not laugh anymore. He remembered Lu Dao had said that the process of body fusion type goo and goo master's fusion was very terrifying. The goo would first eat an organ, then change its form into the eaten organ and replace it, like the white brows and red eyes goo. Shen Lian had checked with other goo masters on this point. There was no mistake. The strong root goo had to fuse with the whole reproductive system, including the kidneys and lower body organs. What if, not to mention the endless pain of being gnawed, if the strong root goo failed to fuse, or if he made a mistake in his operation, causing a certain crucial part to develop poorly, grow crooked, or even not grow at all, he would cry himself to death. For a moment, Shen Lian was very nervous. Life-twisting goo, quickly tell the strong root goo, don't mess it up. The strong root goo entered his body and was very active. It was like an octopus tentacle, wet and cold, moving back and forth in his stomach. Although it did not hurt at all, that strange feeling made Shen Lian's scalp tingle. Suddenly, the strong root goo found the kidneys, its body shook and moved closer. Then, its body shrunk and turned into a slender worm, drilling into the kidneys. Shen Lian felt a chill down his spine. He only felt a slight pain in his stomach. Then he felt the kidneys, bladder, lower body, and the whole reproductive system below his stomach was numb like an electric shock, causing him to shiver from time to time. This continued for half a day before the numbness disappeared. Don't tell me, the fusion was successful? Shen Lian was somewhat uncertain. He did not know the situation. He simply took off his pants and stood in front of the mirror to look. There was almost no change. Suddenly, the interface flashed, and the information was updated. Strong root goo, white level, special effects, strengthening kidney and yang, nourishing yin and consolidating essence, storing essence, bone marrow, brain and intelligence, endurance enhancement, excretion of toxins, promotion of metabolism, hair growth and ear clearing. A series of special effects jumped into his eyes. It really succeeded. Shen Lian was pleasantly surprised. His gaze focused again. Looking down, he was suddenly stunned. Fusion progress 1%. After fusion progress reaches 5%, 4 points of bewilderment will be used to evolve the strong root goo by 1 level. Shen Lian was surprised. Evolve? That can't be right. According to that old man, once a body fusion type goo fuses with a goo master, it becomes a part of the goo master's body. It can only evolve along with the goo master's evolution. It cannot evolve on its own. Why? Shen Lian's gaze flashed, focusing on the 4 words fusion progress. The strong root goo did not eat the organs to fuse in one step, but fused bit by bit. Don't tell me. This is the correct fusion method? Shen Lian seemed to have grasped a key point, his gaze becoming brighter. This progressive fusion method of gradual infiltration, it has a style of Rome is not built in a day. If this is the case, then once I complete the fusion, I can directly use bewilderment points to evolve the strong root goo. Continuously evolving the strong root goo is equivalent to continuously strengthening the entire reproductive system. What kind of growth will it bring to my body? The more Shen Lian thought about it, the more his train of thought was broadened. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. His heartbeat could not help but accelerate. Bai Ling, come in for a moment. Shen Lian called. Soon, Bai Ling opened the door and walked in with light steps. Young master, what are your orders? Shen Lian described the situation, looking at her expectantly. Bai Ling pondered for a moment, nodding. When I was in the family Lin, I heard someone mention the method of gradual fusion. Goo are like wolves. The body fusion type goo are even more ferocious, like hungry wild beasts. Once they encounter their favorite food, they will not be able to control themselves and crazily eat. directly eating one of the Gu Master's organs before fusing. This is the most common fusion method, determined by the Gu's nature. Precisely because of this, gradual fusion is very difficult. One has to fulfill an extremely harsh condition. That is to completely refine and tame the Gu. The Gu Master can make the Gu maintain absolute rationality, and not eat the Gu Master's organs. This is like putting a piece of raw meat in front of a wolf's mouth, and trying to train the wolf to not eat it. The difficulty can be imagined, and the success rate is very low. Only in some sects that pass down more mature secret methods will the success rate be higher. Rumor has it that Gu Masters who undergo gradual fusion with Gu will obtain stronger and more stable strength, and have a certain evolution potential, and can even raise the Gu Master's talent. Sure enough, Shen Lian was overjoyed. What else do you know? Bai Ling thought for a moment, her gaze suddenly flashing. The process of gradual fusion is very slow, the body needs to be continuously tempered to speed up the process, and it seems to require high-intensity training. Good, thank you for your help. You can leave first. Shen Lian smiled with satisfaction, and Bai Ling took his leave. So this can also raise a Gu Master's talent, great. At the end of the road, there is a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. Just as Shen Lian's emotions were churning like a tide, the life-twisting Gu came to the side of the dragon heart Gu, and lightly knocked on it. Immediately, an ancient and vast aura burst out, and only the sound of a heartbeat could be heard. The dragon heart Gu had awakened. The porcelain in the room, the teacups on the table, all cracked. The fragments scattered all over the floor. Shen Lian clutched his chest, and felt a strong sense of oppression. It was as if a huge hammer was hitting him. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was going to explode. The life-twisting Gu lightly caressed the dragon heart Gu. After a moment, that pressure strangely disappeared. Shen Lian breathed roughly for a while before recovering, looking at the dragon heart Gu with a shocked expression. This Gu is a little scary. The next moment, Shen Lian was overjoyed, and quickly pricked his fingertip to feed it with his blood. Even if the dragon heart Gu was scary, it was still obedient in front of the life-twisting Gu, and was successfully refined in a moment. The dragon heart Gu turned into a ray of light and entered Shen Lian's chest. After a while, his whole chest felt an electric shock like numbness, and it was more intense and lasted longer. Half a day later, Shen Lian's gaze flashed, and he looked at the interface. Dragon Heart Gu, white rank, special effect, Dragon Blood mysterious yellow. There was only one special effect, but it gave people a kind of murderous aura, blood staining 1,000 miles, and an invincible crushing momentum. Chapter 48. Carrying out high-intensity training and continuously tempering the body can speed up the fusion process. Shen Lian pondered, from 1% to 5%, what kind of intense training would be considered high intensity? Let's make a plan first. No, let's test the strength of my body first. Shen Lian pondered for a while, lying on the ground and doing push-ups. 1, 2, 3 at a speed of 1 push-up per second, his body went up and down without stopping. I remember the Guinness World Record for push-ups in one breath is 10,507. How many can I do? Shen Lian had the heart to give it a try. 999, 1,000. After an unknown amount of time, he completed 1,000 push-ups. This was something he did not even dare to think about in his previous life. What made him even more surprised was that he could still continue. Other than breathing heavily, his muscles did not feel sore or stiff. Continue. After doing 3,000 push-ups, Shen Lian started to pant. At 5,000, he was sweating profusely. He gritted his teeth and persisted until 8,000, panting like a cow. Finally, he reached 10,000, sweating profusely. After 2,000, his arms were as heavy as lead, and he persisted until 16,000, only to feel the muscles on his arms heating up like they were melting. "This is my limit," Yi Zichen said. A Gu Master's strength was extraordinary, but this extraordinary strength mainly manifested in primeval essence. In fact, many Gu masters' body strength was about the same as the first or second-rate martial masters in the pugilistic world, or only slightly stronger. Shen Lian also had the Grandmaster Gu, which strengthened his body to the limit, and thus had such amazing results. A first-rate martial master like Mao Dehai should be able to do 6,000 to 7,000 push-ups continuously, but I am much stronger than them. According to this test, Shen Lian designed a hellish body tempering package. 10,000 push-ups, 10,000 pull-ups, 10,000 sit-ups, and 80 miles of running while carrying weights. At dawn, before the rooster crows, Shen Lian got out of bed, carried a large millstone, and ran in a circle around the western part of the city at full speed. Under a full sprint, no one could last for long. It was the same for Shen Lian. However, every time his legs stopped running and he reached his limit, as long as he clenched his teeth and persevered, his heart would suddenly beat strongly. At the same time, a cooling sensation gushed out from his kidneys and spread throughout his body. In an instant, his spirit was shaken once again, his blood and qi surged, and his exhaustion was swept away. This was not the end. After completing the basic training, Shen Lian's endurance would last longer. He would also continue to practice the sword and polish the overflowing rain sword art. In a day, other than 6 meals and 8 hours of sleep, he spent the rest of his time training. Under such high-intensity training, Shen Lian could clearly feel that his body was undergoing astonishing changes. Every morning, he would stand in front of the mirror and look at his body. His bulging muscles were even more well-proportioned than the day before. His bones were like steel, faintly emitting a cold metallic luster. There was not a trace of fat to be found. The most touching change was in the lower part of his body. It was really growing and thickening, moving towards majestic and mighty. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. The interface flashed and the information changed. Dragon Heart Gu, White Rank, Special Effect, Dragon Blood Mysterious Yellow, Fusion Progress 5%, using 30 bewitchment points to evolve the Dragon Heart Gu by 1 level. Do you want to evolve? Strong Root Gu, White Rank, Special Effect, Kidney and Yang, Yin and Essence Storage, Fusion Progress 5%, using 4 bewitchment points to evolve the Strong Root Gu by 1 level. Do you want to evolve? Shen Lian took in a deep breath. Evolve the Dragon Heart Gu. Evolve the Strong Root Gu. As soon as he finished speaking, the interface flashed, and 34 bewitchment points were quickly deducted. Almost at the next moment, the area below his chest and stomach felt an electric shock like numbness. It was so strong that he could not help but shiver. After an unknown amount of time, the numbness receded like the tide. Shen Lian focused his gaze and looked at the interface. Immediately, joy appeared on his face, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Dragon Heart Gu, Bronze Rank 1, Special Effect, Dragon Blood Mysterious Yellow, Fusion Progress 5%, using 100 bewitchment points to evolve the Dragon Heart Gu by 1 level. Strong Root Gu, Bronze Rank 1, Special Effect, Rainbow Kidney, Fusion Progress 5%, using 10 bewitchment points to evolve the Strong Root Gu by 1 level. The Dragon Heart Gu's special effect did not change, but the Strong Root Gu's string of special effects were all gone. TSK, Rainbow Kidney? Shen Lian suddenly thought of a saying, with enough kidney qi, the person is strong, and there is no need to worry about the nobles causing trouble. Haha, I am already strong enough to not worry about the nobles causing trouble. Just as Shen Lian was overjoyed, an even bigger surprise came. He only felt a familiar feeling of hunger attacking him fiercely. That was the Iron Jade Gu crazily refining the primeval qi, while the Milk Cow Gu was helping to condense the bronze primeval qi. My talent has increased. The Iron Jade Gu was Bronze Rank 9, while he was Bronze Rank 8. There was still room for growth, but due to the limitations of his talent, he could not take this step. Until now, after fusing the Dragon Heart Gu and the Strong Root Gu, his talent limit had increased, and he could advance. Shen Lian was crazy with joy, and drank the medicinal wine without restraint. Half a day later. Sigh, I really did not expect that I would advance to bronze rank 9 before the Grandmaster Gu. The Grandmaster Gu was still bronze rank 8, while Shunlian had finally advanced to bronze rank 9, a level higher than the Grandmaster Gu. The Grandmaster Gu was also unlucky. However, the Grandmaster Gu had huge potential and could continue to evolve at any time. Unfortunately, there were only 20 bewitchment points left. Sigh, the bewitchment points are not enough. How do I get more next? Adopting orphans could not be used anymore. He could not adopt all the orphans in the world. This was not a long-term plan. He had to find another way. Young Master. At this time, Bai Ling reported, Miss Hua Meifei sent someone to send you an invitation card, inviting you to Turway River. Does young master want to go? Shunlian frowned slightly. This was already the third time in half a month that Hua Meifei sent someone to send him an invitation card. I am not familiar with Hua Meifei, we have only met once, and are only acquaintances. But she has invited me time and time again. Is she asking me for help, or is she? Thinking of this, Shunlian could not help but feel a little restless. To be fair, Hua Meifei's appearance, figure, and moral character were all outstanding. A gentleman would want to pursue her. But after thinking for a while, Shunlian shook his head, thinking, this world is too dangerous. I have to put my mind on how to become stronger. I cannot slack off for even a day. Bai Ling, reply that I have something to do and cannot go. Please forgive me. Yes, young master. Prepare, we are going to the Gu Garden. The second time he came to the Gu Garden, Shunlian was only here for one thing, to find a main ascension Gu that could partner with the life-twisting Gu. After entering the Gu Garden, he went straight to the central area's 3-story turret, and flipped through the human face books for an entire day. He checked almost all types of Gu, but found nothing. This made him very disappointed, and his mood became heavy. Right at this moment, a man with a goatee smiled and walked towards him, his hands folded over his big belly, smiling flatteringly. This Gu Master, young master, I am Li Shuangyang, nicknamed Know-It-All. I see that you are frowning. You seem to have encountered some problem. Would you like to share it with me? Shunlian naturally would not talk about the life-twisting Gu to a stranger, and laughed, saying, Thank you for your kind intentions, but no need. He turned around and ignored him. Li Shuangyang, however, did not leave, smiling. Let me guess, you are looking for a special Gu, but among the types of Gu in the human face books, there is none that you are looking for, right? Shunlian was stunned, and suddenly raised his head. What do you mean, there are types of Gu? Li Shuangyang laughed, nodding. There are all kinds of Gu, and there are many types. However, some Gu are mysterious existences. People simply do not know what they are used for, what Gu they are, and what type they should be categorized into. These Gu are collectively known as strange Gu. In fact, Gu is a sea of unknowns. The known types of Gu only account for 20 to 30%, the other 70 to 80% are all strange Gu. Shunlian's spirit was immediately lifted. Without needing him to ask, Li Shuangyang said, In the Gu Garden, there is a strange Gu area. There are countless Gu whose uses are unknown and cannot be categorized. You might be able to go there and try your luck. Of course, that mystical Gu area is not open to everyone. Shunlian directly asked, How much do you want?